What's up, everyone? This is the Next Tape Podcast, episode 54 with Mikel, and
Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So we are doing we are doing another episode of our Halloween series.
Yep.
What is it, Tanyka?
So we're going to be discussing / kind of somewhat recapping. We obviously can't recap the whole movie or movies, but we're going to be talking about Fear Street Trilogy, which again is on Netflix, and we're kind of do a little history on the Salem witch trials. We're not going to necessarily dive deep, but we can do a little
Summarize.
something. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds cool.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So, first things first, again, Mikel told me his thoughts and feelings on this prior to the episode, which is supposed to wait until we're on the episode. But anyways, what were your thoughts and your feelings on it?
I mean, it's a good trilogy. It's not the greatest trilogy. I mean, I don't know. I know it's supposed to be I know when you start from an origin, it starts from the start, but they did it backwards. They did it from I guessing from the 1666 to 1994, where they did the origin from the last to the first. So yeah, I mean it's a good trilogy. I mean they should have it didn't the horror element didn't spook me too much. It was more I think they were a little bit mediocre with the thriller as well. So I feel like it could have come stronger with the thriller, but I give the three films 3 out of 5. All three of them.
Well, here's what I'll say about it.
Yeah.
I think the one part of it that I think maybe you're not aware of is that this is actually based on books created by the author of Goosebumps.
Yeah.
So with that, it's like the Goosebumps were meant for, let's say, kids into teenage years. So it's not really meant to be at the level of I don't know, like The Conjuring or something like that. It's not meant to be at that level. It's really good. In my opinion, for what it is. And for the audience that it was originally intended to be for.
Right.
With the books. So I think with that, you kind of have to go into it with that knowledge and kind of look at it from that perspective and I think appreciate it for what it is. But for me personally, I think the movies, in particular, the quote unquote bad guys, the killers, I think they're all fantastic. I personally think especially Ruby, I love Ruby Lane. She terrifies me. But that's why I love her so much, because she's terrifying. It's the singing for me. But I think with this, I think there needs to be an origin story for the other killers, which I've heard rumors that they're actually going to be doing.
Oh, are they?
I've heard rumors since when Fear Street came out, there were rumors that there were potentially going to be more movies, whatever the movies are going to be. I don't know if it'll be the origin story of some of them or if it's going to be something else, which we'll kind of talk about. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure if you saw it, if you watched the very end of the last movie, but we'll talk about it.
I feel like they did justice for Tommy versus they did justice for this skull face.
Well, it's meant to be justice for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? I think
story wise, like the character wise, like the way how they build up and just like the origin stories of like each single monster. I
Mhm.
just feel like
Well, we
they
didn't
did.
get to see much of Skullface, and I think honestly, like his origin or anything. I think with him, like I
Hmm.
don't necessarily see them doing that.
Hmm.
When I mean origin story, I mean origin story of the older ones, not
Right.
Skullface being the newer one. And unfortunately for him, didn't have much of a role in terms of the others. And obviously with Tommy, yes, Tommy
Yeah.
being the Nightwing killer,
Yeah.
yes, we did get a little bit of an origin story with him because of 1978. But I want to see Ruby Lane. I want to see the little kid killer, whatever the hell. I want to see the milkman. I want to see that.
I thought I thought we were gonna get that in the '66
Well, no,
or
because the
movie, but
milkman wasn't as old as the 1666.
uh-huh.
The one that had the what's that they used to use it in like doctors and stuff for
Yeah, yeah,
that mask thing.
yeah.
He was the one that was closest to 1666, but
Hmm.
I would think even him wasn't as old as 1666.
Okay.
Um, because I think he was connected. He was a family, he was a relative, like a close relative, like a grandson of something of one of the people who were in 1666. I just can't remember who that was.
Right.
I don't, was it the pastor? I'm not sure. It might have been the pastor. I can't remember, but yeah, he was a little closer in time with
Hmm.
him, but the others are more in like the 1900s or maybe even late 1800s, and then you make your way to the 90s. But yeah, yeah. I mean, for
Yeah.
me personally, I give this movie, I'm gonna say a 4.
Mm.
I love the movie. I can watch it over and over and over again. Like
Hmm.
I love it.
Hmm.
And I think for me with it, I wasn't expecting that particular plot twist. Like I think I felt by the second movie,
Yeah.
this is too easy. It can't be Sarah Fear. Spoiler alert. But
Yeah.
I I felt that, but I wasn't expecting it to be who it is. And I won't say yet. We'll go through it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting it to be that person. And when you kind of
Yeah.
figure out it's that person, you're just like, of
Yeah.
course. Like, of course it's
That's
him.
yeah, that's where I said it was like, yeah, the plot twist was like, yeah, it was in the middle for me with the plot twist, but I feel like it could have been written stronger, like, caught me off guard a little bit and be like, oh,
But like, what else would you have expected to
uh,
get though?
I don't know. I don't know.
Exactly. You can't say that I mean, you can't say, but you can't say that you want like a little more. It's like, okay, but then what would that have been? I personally think the plot twist was good as is. And the fact that it was generations, it wasn't just,
Hmm.
them. It was that person. It was a generational thing.
Hmm.
And and not only that, but like this was a generational thing where it's like this the ancestor, so we're going ahead here, but the ancestor was like he's the
Oh, you
reason
mean,
Sarah feared.
oh, you mean all the ancestors and all that stuff that, from the starting from until the
Yes,
modern. Yeah,
yes. Yeah, because it's a family
that was
thing.
good. Yeah.
It was a
That was the
family
good
thing,
part.
yeah.
Yeah. That
And
was the good part of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this was the reason that, you had Shadyside and Sunnyvale. Like it
Hmm.
was it was because of this one person who felt like the world was against him, I guess. I just
Hmm.
and we'll
Hmm.
get into the nitty-gritty of the movies
Hmm.
in a minute, but I kind of want to talk about other things that aren't necessarily the movie, but the first thing that the music in the movie, especially in
It's pretty.
94, 78.
It's pretty good. It rolls around with the times and like from
Yeah.
66, I expect. Yeah,
366, you didn't
that's
really have
yeah.
much
You
because
didn't
it's
really have much. It's just like
1666.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So
I
pretty
mean, and
much.
again, that's like, even if anything was closely, if they did anything music wise,
Uh-huh.
we wouldn't know any
Uh-huh.
different. Like at least with like 94,
Yeah,
78, like you can kind of be like, okay, yeah, so
yeah.
that's of the time. You have like,
Hmm. Hmm.
I think the part that catches me with the movie as well is the music. I mean, some of the music in 94 is kind of, some of it's good, yes, but some of it's like, I
Right.
wasn't really listening to music like that.
Hmm.
But once you went to 78, I'm like, yes, I'm here for everything that
Hmm.
they play. Cherry Bomb,
Hmm.
Wayward Son. I'm like, yes, like this, the music, it's what definitely catches
Hmm.
you. And I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
The other thing
Absolutely.
too that I think was really good, which I mean, through today's lens,
Hmm.
it's not necessarily, you know, surprising or anything like that. But I know I've never read the books, so I don't know if I'm
Hmm.
going to assume the books are similar to what the movie is in terms of I'm mainly talking about like the same sex relationships or relationship kind of easier to kind of go with that. What did you think about that?
The
Because I felt
relationship
like it was
in 90
incredible.
between 1994 or the relationship between
Well, even in
uh
94,
Sarah
because
and
being being gay in the 90s even
yeah.
was still not what it is today. You had what's his face calling
Hmm.
Dina a dyke. Sorry, I'm going to use the terms correctly here just because I want to make that point come across.
Hmm.
Using words like that, and it's like that's that was the reality. That was something that was quote unquote okay to do, I guess. Hate to say that, but I guess through those lenses, again, I'm not sure when the books were written. I'm not sure when they came out. I'm not sure of any of that. But with 94 and even 1666, because definitely wasn't okay in 1666, especially when we're talking
Yeah,
about people
definitely.
who are,
Yeah. It was
religious and
yeah. Yeah. There were even like, in history, like it wasn't okay back in history to be,
in a same-sex
like in the
relationship.
same
Yeah.
sex relationship. They will call you, all types of things like the W word, like, whore,
Mhm.
witch, all the, well, I don't know if the word S word was founded back in
I
66, but
feel like the word slut,
what,
I was
no,
about to
was
say
it?
it, was
Yeah, that's
more
it.
probably something that's been coined in more recent history,
Yeah.
but definitely, or I'm sure it was
Yeah,
something that was very,
I think a horror was
yeah.
basically, and witch was basically both those
Well,
two.
witch is not necessarily a quote unquote bad word, but in terms of
Mhm.
Puritan
Yeah,
lifestyles, right? Then yes, witch would
yeah,
be
yeah.
the devil's at work.
It all came together for me in '66 until 1994 because I didn't I felt like it was like a generic type of romance, and then it just came together for me, like I
Okay.
said in '66, and so yeah, it was good. The only rush part I didn't like was the brother. It didn't make any sense. The brother and what's
Oh,
the
Kate?
in 1994
Kate.
brother
Kate.
and yeah, okay, that's the rush part. I was like, huh? And
Well,
okay,
it's
so
not
but
really, no, I actually disagree with you. It wasn't
yeah,
rushed.
yeah,
It was, he's had you could tell like when he
he had a
is in the school and he sees Kate, like he has a crush on her. That wasn't
mm,
necessarily a new thing. I
yeah,
think they probably never really spent enough time with each other. This is
mm,
Dita's little brother, so she's not going to get
mm,
involved. Like you have to think from that perspective. You're
mm,
not going to get involved with your friend's little, your kid sibling, right?
mm.
You're not going to do that. But
I mean,
I
they
think,
could have done more to in my opinion, but like
but again, what would that have been? You know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
just build the story up a little bit, like
Yeah, but they didn't have
but
the time to build the story up. If we're thinking in
then
the
that's
terms of the storyline is accurate,
mm,
you had the situation with Skullface. The next day, you have
yeah,
the whole situation with being Sunnyvale and all that, and her and what's her face ending up in the hospital, and then literally that night,
Mhm.
I think that was all that in one night. They didn't have time because they didn't have
Yeah,
time to really develop it. I think
yeah,
because they were spending so much time together, that's kind of where it developed. And yes, it was quick, but I think again, if you're under like pressure, not necessarily something like this, obviously, but just pressure in general, you might feel the urgency and they might progress a little faster.
yeah.
Um, but unfortunately, like obviously, maybe there would have been more to it if
Mhm.
Kate didn't die.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert. So like that's part of I think the issue,
Mhm.
right? Is that it just wasn't capable of being progressed
Yeah,
under the
I mean,
circumstances.
yeah. I mean, that's the only part that, otherwise. And then that 1970, is it 1976,
It's
1978?
78.
Yeah, okay, my bad. The sex scene in there.
The sex scene. You had an issue with the sex scene?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an issue, but
Why?
I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit cheesy, but
Why? Why
that's
was it cheesy? I don't find
it.
that cheesy
That
at all.
I don't know. It was a little extra. Like, I mean,
Why?
I don't
I'm
know.
just curious as to why you would think that.
I mean, like it felt like it was overacting. Like you could just see like not, the realism was like, I understand you're supposed to act, but like it was like overact, in my
I
opinion.
mean, what I'll say, I mean, in experience,
Hmm.
yes, sex isn't always like
Yeah,
that.
not tied. Yeah, it's not tied with
Um,
any
but
type of.
sex can
Yeah.
be like that. It's not like it's not
Yeah, but
every time, but it
yeah,
can
yeah, but
happen, right?
yeah,
So
but
we don't know where they were at. Maybe sex before was more chill before, and then that day to just they're really feeling it. Plus, you also have to, I mean, I'm not a person who takes some drugs, but they're also drug fueled as well. Like, we don't really know, like, we're not really experiencing that.
hmm
So that could
hmm
also have been a thing.
that could enhance it, but
Yeah, and plus
yeah,
they're
yeah.
I don't know about you, but I mean, they're fucking a cherry bomb. That is, that's a hype song. So maybe they're just feeding off of the song. Then
Yeah,
there too.
way too much. It's
Well, Cherry Bomb is a very
overly.
serious
I know.
song.
Yeah,
Love Cherry
way
Bomb.
too much. But you know,
Yeah,
that's
they're they were the rhythm was rhythming
yeah,
to Cherry Bomb. That's all.
yeah,
There's nothing
yeah.
wrong with that. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But
whatever.
no, no, could have been
I mean,
better. It could have been,
personally, I mean, if
you know,
what I would want to, like, I want a backstory. Not necessarily a backstory. That's maybe the wrong word to use.
backstory
What
of.
I'm going to say is, I want to know more. Is this how you guys always have sex? Because then I would have to ask questions because personally, that would hurt after a while. I feel like, I mean, the female body can really take a lot,
Mhm.
but I feel like it can become overkill, I guess. But I mean,
Man, I understand it, but like,
yeah.
understand rough, don't get me wrong, rough sex and everything like that. I understand it, but like
What did you just
when it
say?
comes to rough sex,
Rough sex. Okay, okay, okay.
okay, I understand rough sex. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong,
yeah, yeah.
but when you I just feel like it was just like you're overdoing it, overacting what rough sex is. It's yeah, that's how I felt like when I saw that. Otherwise than that, I understand the song has to do a lot to it
Mm,
because you're hype and you just like, and then you're on drugs as well. So that
mm,
also enhances your sex drive as well. But
mm.
like,
I mean, I'm not sure what
I
drugs they
just,
were on at that point. They could have been
yeah,
on anything. They could
yeah,
have been on X. They could have been on speed, and we
yeah,
just don't know enough, right?
yeah, yeah. But you know,
But I mean, for
so
what
they
it
could, they could have,
is,
yeah. could
you
have
know.
slowed it down a little, just a tiny bit, but
I mean, I'm just
yeah.
saying, like, I'm not shocked by it. I'll just say
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
from my own experiences, I'm not shocked that that's something that can happen, once in a while.
Yeah.
But again, they're also teenagers. I mean, the energy of a teenage
Hmm.
boy
Mm.
and a teenage girl is totally different than
I see.
where we're at in our 30s. Make ourselves
Hmm.
sound old here, but you know, it's just
Mm. I
I can understand it
Okay.
from that
Yeah.
perspective as a teenager
Yeah.
more so than I can understand it now as a 33-year-old.
Mm.
I'm not having sex like that on a daily basis or even on a monthly basis, hell, even twice a year. So from
Hmm.
that perspective, like it's not something that I'm necessarily doing now in my
Mm.
30s, but
Mm.
maybe in my teens. Yeah, I probably was. So I get it from that perspective. But I also hear what you're saying too, because I get that. But anyway, anything else?
Yeah.
Anything else
Mm.
from the movie that like
Just
didn't
to
like?
no, I like I said, the trilogy is good. Like obviously, like I said before, yeah, just a good trilogy altogether. I didn't like dislike too much. I gotta remember. It's just like you gotta refresh my memory because like at the end of the day, like when it comes to watching three movies in the span of like
Yeah,
3 days, yeah, you tend to like miss.
they'll blur. It blurs. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I'll jog memories, and I'm sure as we
Yeah.
go, we can
Yeah.
talk about
Sunrise. Yeah. Yeah.
stuff. 1994 in the beginning, we kind of
Mm-hmm.
meet Brian, which will is our skull face, and we're kind of introduced to what we kind of can expect from these movies in this
Mm-hmm.
moment. We also have Heather, who is going
Mm-hmm.
to be, unfortunately, our first victim of the movie. And she, I guess, her and Ryan.
Spoiler alert,
Oh,
because the
not really,
movie's
because we're about to get into it. So,
okay.
Heather, I guess, and Ryan kind of obviously know each other, I think, from school,
Mm-hmm.
and they work near each other also. Yeah, she's kind of, trying to get a ride from him after work and all this and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what you kind of see here that I think is also kind of important about the movies and throughout the people that we're going to see through this, because I think we're mainly seeing Skullface, especially in the first like half an hour or so. We're
Yeah.
not really seeing anybody else yet. Is that the flies? Did you notice the flies
Yeah, I
around the
did.
killers? Yeah.
Yeah,
So you
I
have
did.
the flies, which
Uh-huh.
is an indication of the devil's afoot. And I
Uh-huh.
think like even in other movies, flies is not necessarily a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with in this kind of realm with demons and shit. So yeah, you get the flies, and he also ends up hearing his name being called, and
Mm-hmm.
he thinks it's Heather. It's not Heather. It's we'll find out who it is in a little while, but. You hear his name being called, which again is something we're going to see again in 78 as well.
Uh-huh.
So that there's definitely a thing here kind of going. So while she's, Heather's locking up and whatever, doing her thing,
Uh-huh.
there's Ryan pretty much coming, and he's not really Ryan anymore, but he's dressed up in the skull outfit already at this point. So she doesn't realize it's Ryan yet.
Uh-huh.
And here's this person coming at her with a knife, chasing her all through the bookstore. She runs out into the main part of the mall, and we
Mm-hmm.
see were they janitors or something? I'm not sure. Dead. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually want to pause here. I'm not sure why he killed them. Based on the fact of what we know with the movie, which is, okay, again, spoiler alert, whatever. If people haven't watched the movie at this point, I'm sorry. But with the movie, you kind of find out that they're only really meant to kill the target. And we'll talk more about that target, but they're only really truly meant to kill the target, whoever the target's meant to be. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure why he killed, unless at this point he's just killing to kill, but at that point that defeats the purpose of the movie, or of not so much the movie, but what their goals are supposed to be.
I think, like I said, 1666 would basically tell you, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have all of that. So, like,
I guess maybe
that's why I was like, I thought it was lost. I was like, huh.
Yeah, because I guess with the pastor, he technically also didn't have a quote unquote target.
Yeah.
I guess the target was just to kill.
Mm-hmm.
But I can kind of understand that in 1666 because it was the start of it. They're still, working out the kinks and whatever at that point, right?
Yeah.
But by 94, the kinks are ironed out. So why did he kill these other random people? Is he just... that's the part of it that's confusing. And why he didn't kill others. Because again, I mean, the black guy was kind of... The black guy, which I can't remember his name. I'm so sorry. We're going to continue calling him the black guy throughout this. The guy...
The guy that called the brother Urkel.
Yes, that's the guy I'm talking about. We do see him in 94.
And,
very briefly.
And 94 part 2 as well.
Well, yes, because he was already a part of the group at that point.
Yeah.
Or he's being roped in. But it was, I guess, because he wasn't in the vicinity at that point, I guess. Which is great because it's really nice to see a black guy not get killed in these movies. So that's actually a really good point. Black people don't really get killed in these movies.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Kind of good. We don't really get that very often.
I just felt like he was in the second part. I feel like he just was written in a little cheesy, but that's in my opinion.
Why?
I don't know, like the way how they just when he needed to get out.
But they were showing him throughout the series.
Little
by little, so it wasn't like he was a random person.
No, he wasn't random.
Him.
He wasn't a random person. No, you're wrong.
The reason he called him was because, if you remember, I think it was in the 94, he gave him what's a paper clip or something in order to free himself, and the guy said, "I owe you," and he gave him his business card.
Yeah.
So that's why he called him, because he's like, we need help. So he called him to say, do you want to kill Nick Good? And why wouldn't he want to? Because Nick Good keeps arresting him. So that's... I'm not necessarily shocked by him being in it.
I know, I'm not
at the end, just because of that.
I'm not shocked the way he's in it. It's the way how they written him, like the way how they just brought that together. Like it just felt like a little cheesy in my opinion. But
he wasn't really in the whole thing to begin with. He had, again, I don't know how else they would have written him in in 94 part 2, just because he wasn't already a part of the core group at that point. They don't know him. None of them really know him. It's only because they had this chance encounter with him. That's it. So I just don't know how else they would have brought him in. And he also knows the mall because he works in the mall. So that works out as well.
Yeah.
Right? So I just don't know how else they would have brought him in.
Yeah, I feel like it could have done better in my opinion. It's just the music. The music when they drive into his house with the police car, it was like,
that was hilarious.
It was funny, but like it just felt like it just felt like a generic. There it is. That's the word.
I hear you there. I do.
Yeah.
I just think I thought it was hilarious. Personally, I think like if you can just kind of look at it from like the funny perspective of it, I'm just like,
I understand.
It's hilarious.
It could have written that better though.
And I
I
mean, why
understand
not
what they were
have
trying
at
to
least
say.
one point you can have some rap in there? Because they were having like, really and truly, did you know any of the songs in '94? Because I did not. I think I recognized one of them, but otherwise, like, I didn't know anything of this music. This was not my world.
I just can't name the song. I recognize them.
I recognize, like I said, like one of them. But and again, like, don't ask me to name titles of '94 song or 90 songs in general. The chances are I'm not gonna know.
But yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. I just thought of that's basically what I thought of him.
Yeah. But we'll get to him a little more. But basically we're still in this moment, but Skullface does end up catching up with Heather and stabs her in the back. And she falls and she's I don't know if she was stabbed again. I think she was probably stabbed again. And before she dies, she takes the mask off and she says it's Ryan, which is obviously a shock to her. And then we see him get shot in the head by our sheriff, Nick Good. That's kind of that. Ryan is quote unquote dead. Because here's the part that I want to mention. Well, no, I'm not going to mention that yet. I'm not going to mention that yet. I'm going to wait to mention that. But he's dead. And so was Heather. And I want to point out here, for those who didn't watch the movie, or maybe did watch the movie and want more clarification or whatever, they're killed by this tree that's placed in the center of the mall. The tree is of significance throughout this movie. I'm not telling you what that significance is yet, but it is very significant. And it's all going to tie together, which I will then ask you about as well once we get to it. So, yes, basically, that's basically that. So we meet Dina, who is kind of our leading lady throughout this. And Dina is writing a letter to her ex. We don't know who her ex is yet. She's writing a letter to her ex because her ex, I guess, has moved from Shadyside to Sunnyvale, and the world's coming to an end, and they can no longer be together. And we meet Josh, who is her brother. And Josh is a little bit of a nerd, but he's going to come in very handy throughout this, trust me.
Yeah.
I actually really liked her brother, but it's kind of here we're starting to learn about the legend, because they do see on TV, 2 Shadysiders or 2 more Shadysiders have been killed. We'll kind of talk about that as we go through. And it's the work of the witch, and we're going to find out more about the witch.
Which is mentioned a lot in the
yes. Yeah. When you have a lore, it can be everything you talk about.
Which is a good thing.
So yes, we're the witch, Sarah Fier. Fier spelled F-I-E-R, not F-E-A-R as it is in the movies names, but it's Sarah Fier, and she's our witch, right? And she's taken another Shadysider. So once we get to the school and we kind of see Kate, with Kate we'll meet Simon, who is another person we're going to see throughout the 94, because I didn't say we're doing 94 first. That's what we're doing first. So with this is when we hear the little riddle about Sarah Fier, which is very similar to, for those people who are part of the true crime, who listen to true crime or watch true crime, is very similar to the Lizzie Borden riddle as well, which is I think it's the handed witch or something like that.
Before the witch's final breath, she found a way to cheat her death by cutting off her cursed hand. She kept her grip upon our land. She reaches from beyond the grave to make good men her wicked slave.
Yeah, this is where we said we meet Kate and Simon. Kate and Simon are drug dealers, y'all. They're drug dealers for real.
Yeah.
They partake in Percocets and other things.
Crazy. It's crazy how they let like two kids like, do
I
the
don't know if let
drugs.
is the right word to use.
Yeah.
But they
Or
do.
They do.
Yeah. I think with them, it's merely the fact that this is their way of trying to get out of the shady side. So it's, you do what you gotta do, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, they're drug deals, but this is going to come in handy a little later. It's the only reason why I'm mentioning this. So we then head over to Sunnyvale because they're going to be doing, I think it's a football game. I think they're going to be doing, and Dina is not a part of the football team, but she's a part of the band, so she has to go, even though she thought she was going to be quitting, but she ended up going, whatever. So they're doing that. They're doing a candlelight vigil for Heather, and well, mainly Heather, because everyone thinks that, what's his face, Skullface, went crazy and we hate him. So not his fault, but we're doing this candlelit visual, and the mayor is the one that's kind of heading this, and the mayor is the brother of Nick Good. So this is where we're going to be doing. Okay, it's going great, right? It's going really good. But you then have Dina going off into the corner because she's going to be giving all of her ex's shit to them. Get your crap, get out of here. Here's a letter or some shit, whatever. So yeah, we see her as we're seeing her kind of in this like aisle or like alleyway or something away from everybody else. We see her kind of eyeing this couple. And I think, as heterosexual people, you're thinking, oh, the ex is him, right? No. Her ex is actually Sam, meaning Samantha. Because I think we were seeing Sam, but we weren't sure if Sam meant Sam or Samantha. And yes, her ex is Samantha. And who we'll just call Sam throughout the rest. And she's like, here's your shit. Take it. You might as well have like left the country for the fact that you're now in Sunnyvale and blah blah blah. And she's obviously jealous because of this guy.
Yeah, she's with another guy.
Peter, I think was his name.
Yes, it's Peter.
I love how you remembered that very easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, Peter, who's this douche, and
I mean, he didn't. Well, he was a little bit of a douche, but like
he was a douche.
You got a decent side of him when he was at a hospital. So
yeah, because I think he cares for her. He cares for Sam.
Yeah.
But then when Dina's there, he's calling her. I'm not gonna say it again. He's calling her the D word and all of that, like using derogatory terms, which is just like, but you're also describing your girlfriend, because if she's was at the very least is probably bi, but I mean, I don't want to necessarily label her, but like she was in a relationship with her, so you're also disrespecting her by referring to someone who doesn't want to deal with your shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not necessary. So I think that's why he gets the douche card from me. This is, you don't have to go there, but whatever, the old fling and the new fling are gonna fight, I guess, whatever. But while they're arguing with each other because of all of this, there's a fight that breaks out on the field because the Sunny Bailers disrespect the Sunny Shaders, or the Shady Siders. So it was just like a whole thing. So Shady Siders leave, they're on the bus, and they're just like, we're gonna get these Sunny Bailers, how dare they, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, you have Peter, this douche, and his other douchey friends, and Sam in the car behind the bus. And I believe Peter was wearing a skull face mask. I really want to know where you got that very quickly. But anyways, you have the skull face thing, and they're obviously taunting them. And
wait, hold on. I didn't see that part.
You didn't see that part?
When they taunt. skull face mask. Did they really do that, or did they just
They
like
wore
they were practicing?
Peter was, at least Peter was, I'm not sure about the other guy, but Peter was wearing a skull face mask.
Mhm.
So he's taunting the Shady Siders for the fact that there was a Ryan and the skull face killed another person. So that's why they were doing it.
Okay.
So
I did see the
mask.
the bus.
Yeah.
They were on the bus, and then they were just like driving the bus, and then they were just throwing stuff.
Yes. So that's what they ended up choosing the wrong way to go by. What I think Dina was planning to do here was to have the actual thing open and was going to pour water or something onto the car so it would have whatever. But instead, the whole freaking thing, what would we call it? A keg? The whole keg ends up just slipping out of their hands and ends up hitting the car. And the car ends up skidding off the highway.
Didn't Samantha have a flashback or something?
We're getting to it.
Okay.
We're getting to it. So they're skidding off the highway, whatever, and everyone's okay for the most part. Sam, I'm not sure why she did this. She was delirious, but every time I see this scene, I'm like, why wouldn't you just stay in the car? So this part for me was a little, I guess you have to make the story make sense, but it's never made sense to me. So what she ends up doing is she crawls out of the car, literally on her hands and knees, crawling in this pink moss, which is also going to be important throughout. This pink moss, and she's crawling, and she's bleeding out of her nose. And she kind of wipes the blood off her nose and then sticks her hand back in the moss.
Right.
And that's where she gets the flashback. Go ahead.
So Samantha, going back to that bus, I think the reason why it's the bucket of water or whatever they call it.
Keg, I think.
They slipped out of her hands because her nose was bleeding as well. So we forgot about that part as well.
Oh, Dina, right. Thank you. Yes, Dina had the nosebleed as well. And that's why it slipped. Correct.
Is Dina or Samantha?
Dina had the nosebleed on the bus.
Oh, so it's Dina.
Samantha had the nosebleed crawling out of the car.
Okay, so this. Oh, okay, so
So Dina is the brunette. Sam is the blonde.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, she has the vision, and she sees Sarah Fear in her vision.
Mm-hmm.
And we will talk about why. I mean, I don't know necessarily why, but I can understand why, if that makes any sense. But anyways, she's having this vision, and then Dina is there, and she's like, are you okay? Obviously, she's concerned and all that. And Peter, this douche, literally says, "Get away from her, you DYKE." He literally, and I'm just like, you motherfucker can't even come out of your car because you're hurt. I hear you, whatever. But you're going to be concerned because someone is trying to make sure your girlfriend is okay. This douche. Anyways.
Yeah.
So she's like, did you see it? Sam says, did you see it? And she's like, what the hell are you talking about? And she's like, the witch. I just saw the witch. So, but she's not okay. She's going to go to the hospital. May give her a CAT scan, make sure everything is fine, right? So that's basically it with that particular scene. Where am I at?
We skimmed through it. I mean, both Deanna and Samantha how to have a conversation with each other or something like that, or
was that when they were arguing about when they were still at the school? I did kind of skim over it. I didn't go every little detail, but yes, I did skim over it. Yeah. So anyways, the next night, it's the next night, Dina's trying to call Sam, see if she's okay. Her mother
answer the phone. Yeah.
Her mother answers the phone, and she's like, "Is this Dina?" She's like, "You're not gonna quit until she's dead." Jesus Christ, mother. But she's like, "She's fine. Don't call again." We're gonna see a lot. We're gonna really understand Sam's mother in so many ways. Oh God, I did not like her mother. Anyways, I don't think we're meant to like her mother, but anyways.
Yeah.
But anyways, Dina realizes that there is blood, Sam's blood, on Dina's shoes, because I think she ended up actually throwing up blood as well, which splattered not only on Dina, I missed this part, also on Simon's shirt as well, because Simon did come and he's like, it's gonna be okay, like being his mellow self, it's gonna be fine. And then she throws up, but she then hears a doorbell ring at the house, and it's like dinging a lot, and she's trying to get Josh to answer the door, but he's in his own world, not answering the door. And she does eventually go, and she doesn't see anybody at first. She then sees someone in the distance, and it definitely looks like a person in a skull face costume. And she is thinking it
was Peter.
She was thinking it was Peter. And she kind of yells out to Peter and whatever. I think she yelled at Peter in the front door. And she's whatever. So she closes the door, whatever. She goes to the kitchen and she's, minding her business. But then she looks out the window. And there is the guy again with the skull face. Again, she's thinking it's Peter.
Right.
Meanwhile, we head over to Kate and Simon, who are actually babysitting, I think like across the street or something from Dina. And Kate, I believe one of them called the other. She's like, "Where are you?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm babysitting. See, look." And she's flicking the light, and there's like, okay, well, I think like Peter is like fucking with me and whatever. And she's babysitting like these two twin girls. Simon's also there just because he has nothing else to do. But then when we realize with Simon, dear old Simon, is that he was wearing like those zip up sweaters, and he unzips the sweater and he's, takes it off, and she's like, "Are you wearing the same shirt from yesterday? Like, what the hell?" He's like, "I had to work a double shift. Like, what do you want me to do?" And she's like, "Change? Like, take it off?" So he takes it off, and she's like, "There are kids here." She's like, "What do you want me to do? Take it off? Leave it on? What do you want me to do?" So anyways, the moral of this is that the fact that there is Sam's blood on his shirt. So I'm gonna correlate this for everybody. Blood on Dina's shoes. Blood on Simon's shirt. So they too also, I don't know did they actually see Skullface prior to him getting in the house? I don't think so.
No, they haven't.
Okay, so they, I think, are in another part of the house, and they're kind of like doing whatever. They also had the kids sorting out their drugs. That was really fucked. But anyways, they're doing whatever. And they hear a lot of rumblings in the front of the house, and they're like, "What the hell?" So they go to the front of the house, and there's Skullface rummaging through the laundry. And they're like, "What the hell, dude?" And she's like, "I know it's Peter, because like Dina told me it's Peter." So when they say, what the hell? He turns around and he looks at them all menacingly. "Y'all the same Peter. This is not Peter." So they go to she's like, "No shit, like something's not right here." But then when they look back again, he's gone. And when they go to look at what he was doing, he was like cutting up Simon's shirt. But yes, everybody, this was not Peter. I'm not gonna tell you who it is yet, but I'm sure you probably can guess. But it's not Peter. No. So yeah, that was pretty messed up. Let's go to the next scene. So I kind of just went through all of this without looking at my notes. So they end up going to the hospital because Kate and Simon end up asking this very sweet lady that we're going to see again in a little bit. This sweet lady, I think they do We call her Miss Lane. Hold on to that. Miss Lane, can you watch these kids? And she's like, sure, whatever. And they go over to Dina. They're like, what the fuck? Like, this is ridiculous. Why did Peter do this? And like, there's kids in the house, and he's like there with a knife and stuff, like whatever. So they're gonna go confront Peter. So they go to the hospital. And we meet this very, very briefly, this amazing Black woman just behind the counter who doesn't give a shit in the world and just says sign in and don't talk to me, basically. And Kate's like, what was the Nurse Betty? Was that the name of the nurse? Is Nurse Betty in or something like that, whatever the name was? And
I think so.
Yeah. And I think Nurse Betty is known to do illegal things in Shady Side Hospital. But yes, Nurse Betty, or whatever his name was, is their dealer, or I don't know, the supplier. I don't know. And he's able to get Dina in to talk to Sam and potentially Peter, while Josh, Kate, and Simon are staying back. And when she gets in there, she's like, tell your boyfriend to back off and all that. She's like, what are you talking about? He's been here the entire time, whatever. And then Peter shows up and he's like, what the hell is going on here? But Peter, and it's a wrap on Peter, y'all. It was really nice knowing him because he gets stabbed. Just stabbed by Skullface. And that's who's been pittering-pattering around their homes. So with that, Sam feels so much better now because she needs to run. And yeah, so they're being chased throughout the hospital. Josh, Kate, and Simon see the kerfuffle and they are dipping too, but they kind of dip to a point where we don't know where they went for a little bit, but we do find out. And they're hiding behind the desk of the front desk. And there is a lot of blood, because it is also a wrap on the lovely Black lady behind the desk who is just trying to make some coins. And she's now dead. And Nurse Betty, or whatever his name is, comes in and he's like, what the fuck is going on? And then he too is now dead. Skullface is killing everybody. Skullface really does want to kill everybody. That's the moral of Skullface. So while they're kind of figuring this out, though, here comes the other three in an ambulance and says, get in. And they are running in, but I think that what happening was Skullface must have fallen backwards at some point. I can't remember how that happened or whatever, but he falls backwards. And with him falling backwards, his mask comes off. And you see it is Ryan Torres, bullet hole in the head and everything. And we're like, what the fuck? Because you're supposed to be dead. He is dead. He's really dead. But yeah. So they get into the ambulance and whatever, and we're gonna go get some help from none other than Mr. Nick Good, or sorry, Sheriff Good. And that's where they're gonna go because they need help. Everyone else though stays outside. It's just Dina and Sam that go in there. And I'm gonna have to go back and forth a little bit. So I'm gonna more focus on my notes here. So Simon goes to use the bathroom while they're going in there. And while Simon is doing his business, he hears a lovely song. And she's just sitting on the sidewalk, singing on the sidewalk. That's all she's doing. And we hear those flies again. And she's a little bloody. on her wrists. And she is also holding a razor blade, an old school razor blade. And she attacks him because, like, he thinks she's hot. And he's going to go over there and talk to her thinking, you're really hot. Yeah. And she's also really dead. And when she looks up at him, you're just like, oh no, this isn't good. So yeah, she attacks him. And I'm going to stop there and go back into the police station for a minute. So while all this is happening, they're in the police station talking to Nick Good and saying, listen, we just saw Ryan Torres kill a bunch of people in the hospital. I thought you shot him. What's going on here? And he's like, I did shoot him. He is dead. Well, what are you talking about? And she's like, okay, but he's like alive. And he's like, okay, all right. So he goes to write it down, but of course he's not believing her, or so we think. Isn't believing her, and he's like, would you describe like The Walking Dead? Even though I don't think The Walking Dead was around at the time.
Yeah.
But like did he say Walking Dead?
He was making sick jokes.
He was making jokes, so like, joking with her and
not believing.
Yeah, not believing.
And shouldn't have that.
But while he's making fun of her, though, there's a call on the radio that there are some issues at the hospital, and they're like, you see?
He's like, oh.
And he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go check that out. You guys want to stay here? But the other dude, who I will point something out to you a little later, but the other dude is going to kind of finish it up. And this fucking guy too, he's a douche as well. And he is kind of like, whatever. And I guess Dina gets this bright idea that if no one's going to help us, then I'm going to try and get a gun. And I can get a gun from this police officer. So she starts going nuts, so like freaking out in order to, like, you're not helping us. We're supposed to serve and protect. She's going off. And he's like, how about you calm down? How about you find your boyfriends and tell them you need to relax? And I'm like, excuse me? First of all, the assumption that they have boyfriends is hilarious. I mean, Sam did, but he's dead now. Number two, how dare you even suggest that the only thing that we need to relax is a man? And the misogyny is gross, and it's just gross. The whole thing was just not great. But it's okay because she got her thing that she wanted, and that was the gun. So we're going to go back to Simon and Ruby, because that is who this really amazing dead woman is. It's Ruby Lane. Catch, I said Lane. That's going to come back. So Ruby Lane is on top of Simon, ready to slice his throat. But then she gets shot in the head by Dina, by the gun that she just acquired from the police. And when she shoots her, black blood is splattered instead of red, which is what's typical. But y'all, while they're talking frantically about the experience, doesn't Ruby start getting back up again? Because she's dead. And they're like, oh shit. So they run to the ambulance, and that's that. So just trying to figure out here. I guess they go back to the house. Did they go back to the house? Am I correct here? This is what's in my notes, but I don't remember. I guess they went back to the house. Josh is like, trying to figure out everything about this person that just attacked Simon. And he's like, wait, did you say razor blade? They're like, yeah. She's like, was she singing like an older song? And Simon's like, what the fuck? Because he wasn't there, right? So it's then at this point, because he's kind of in this, he's learned so much about the shady side killers that he's going to now school us on everything. So he's like, that was Ruby Lane. who died in 1965, by killing her friends, including her boyfriend, and then herself with a razor blade, while the song she was singing was playing in the background. We then learn 1978 is the Nightwing Killer, who we will meet in a minute. We have the Milkman, who was 1950. We have 1938 was the Humpty Dumpty Killer. So that's what I said, the little kid one, the Humpty Dumpty Killer. 1922 was Billy, I think Barker. I think it's Barker. That was the guy with the face, the mask thing. 1904, the Drifter, who would drown girls in the lake. Actually, I think he was the guy with the mask thing. Sorry. Yeah, he would drown girls in the lake. And then we see someone else who we are going to learn more about in 1666. And that is Pastor Miller, who was, again, 1666. He says, none of this is random. It's Sarah Fear. Sarah Fear is doing this, right? And just like the rhyme, they say that the rhyme kind of again, before the witch's final breath, she found a way to cheat her death. By cutting off her cursed hand, she kept her grip upon our land. She reigns from beyond the grave to make good men. Her wicked slave, which we did hear that part of it, but the first half we hadn't heard before. So Sam then says, I saw her in the woods. So, she says that. So we go back to the woods, right? Because we're like, well, this is where you found her. We need to figure this out. So they go back to the woods. But while they do, Simon's like, well, no wonder you saw her. You disturbed her because they found bones. So they try to bury the bones to see if maybe if we bury the bones, all of this will stop. Well, guess what? It doesn't. Because there is someone else in the woods with them while they're doing this. And that is the Nightwing Killer, who we will be more acquainted with later. So the Nightwing Killer is here, which, I mean, I really do love Ruby Lane, but I kind of like him too as well. I like the Nightwing Killer as well. But yeah, he shows up to join the party and tries to kill them. So while they run away, get back into the ambulance before Nightwing can get them, they're kind of like, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? And they're like, they want Sam. Sam is the target here. I don't know how they got there, but they got there. I guess because she bled on the bones. That's why they're thinking that's her that she wants. So that's the conclusion they come to. And they're like, well, like, why were we thinking that? Like, obviously Dina doesn't want to give her up to the killer. But they're like, well, she was attacking Simon's shirt that has her blood on it. And she's like, but he was at my house too. Why was he at my house? And they're like, Dina. And they look down at her shoes, which has the blood on her shoes, which she forgot about. So that is why they come to this conclusion. So what do we have to do but give her up to the witch, I guess? Meanwhile, we see Nick at the hospital and he sees all the bodies and whatever. And yeah, he's thinking. So we go to the high school and they have this idea that they're going to try and kill them. And the idea here is that what they're going to do is try to, well, I don't want to go ahead because I don't really say it until we see it, but they're going to try and trap them in one area so that they can kill them all at once. And they obviously have to use Sam as bait in order to do this. So what everyone has to do is clean themselves off of Sam's blood, because whoever obviously will have Sam's blood, they're going to think it's Sam and kill her. So kill them or whatever. So this is what they're going to try and do. So this is where, again, Mikel kind of mentioned this before. This is kind of where we're seeing kind of the relationships kind of form. Yeah, develop is a good word.
Yeah.
Develop's a good word. So Kate goes into the girls' bathroom to change, and Josh goes with her. And kind of from there, like, you know, she's like, can you help me with this? And he helps her, even though he's really nervous, clearly. And from there, like, they kiss or whatever. You have... Okay.
Yeah, that's where I said, like, where's the... was it established that he had a crush on her?
Yes, I said that before.
So?
Yeah, we knew he had a crush on her.
I didn't.
Because he was awkward with her with the vending machine situation. He was a little awkward with her. Simon kept pointing it out too, because he also could tell that he had a crush on her. We saw it earlier in the school where he kind of like focuses on Kate. And yeah, we knew he had a crush on Kate at this point. We did know that. But obviously Kate kind of was ignoring him prior to this a little bit. So anyways, while that's happening, you also have Dina and Sam getting reacquainted with each other. And then you just have Simon on his own, literally on his own. So everyone comes back out and there's like, did we all just go to that pound town? And he's like, yeah, me too. Yeah. It's like, okay. So anyways, back to the thing at hand. So yes, they're going to be trapping the killers into the bathroom. And Sam is going to be in one of the stalls waiting for them to come in there. And then she ends up crawling through the ventilation out to the other side. Meanwhile, there is stuff that will explode, bleach and all that kind of stuff in there. And they line them up and they are exploded. So the different killers that we had, I didn't mention the killers. We had Ruby, Nightwing Killer, Skullface. Was there somebody else or just the three of them? I think it was just those three.
Those three, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just those three and they get exploded. But it doesn't work. It does not work. Because they're already dead, y'all. So it's not going to work. They're kind of... we see in the bathroom while they're like dealing with like putting out the fire or whatever with the extinguisher, they literally see the blood starting to move because they're gonna form back into them. And they're like, this is not gonna end. They want her. Enough's enough. Let's give her up. And Sam's like, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. I'll die. It's okay. So she's like, I'm gonna die one way tonight, so let's just do this. So I think she said that later, but yeah, she's like, I'm just gonna do this. So they push her out into the hallway while we wait for someone to come get her. Dina's freaking out because obviously, and they realize while they're going through this that someone survived the Nightwing massacre. And they're like, how? That's impossible. No one survives. Someone survived. So they call the survivor to be kind of like, help us. Somehow you fought the witch and you lived to tell the tale. Like, we want to talk to you. And she doesn't answer. The survivor, she doesn't answer. And they kind of realize, no, wait, she did die. But was brought back to life. So with that, they kind of have the realization, we could do that. So right as the Nightwing Killer is about to axe Sam to death, they pull her back in. But of course, he's axing through the door trying to get in. And once they tell her everything that's going to happen and whatever. And once he's able to get in, they crawled through the window and that's basically that. So we'll see more of them. Let me just go to the rest of the minutes here. So then we see Nick going to a house. We don't know whose house it is, but he's going to a house. And he leaves a note on the porch of the house that basically says simply, it's happening again. And you're like, you motherfucker, you do believe them. You know what's happening. This is what you're thinking, right? You know what's happening. Because for whatever reason, you know what's happening. We will find out. But and we're like, who is the person he's leaving this with? Like, we don't know. We have theories, but we don't really know Who did you think this person was when you watched it, without knowing who it was? Who did you think it was? Did you even think at all of who it could be, or you just like?
Was it? It could have been the nurse from the 1970s.
You thought it could have been the nurse? Well, that's a good guess, actually, because she definitely knew what's been going on. But yeah, we'll get to her. But yeah, that's a good guess. So yes, now we're at the final showdown in '94, and we're just kind of gonna get through this. So we're at the supermarket that Simon works at, and he's like, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to drug you. We're going to drug you half to death. Okay. This is what we're going to do. And he's like, you're going to take this that's going to, bring your levels down. And then you're going to take this and it's going to shock you. Well, I don't know what the fuck, but he's telling her these different things. He's like, you got to take it in this order between this amount of time. And then what's going to bring you back? EpiPens. Or somebody said EpiPens. AKA adrenaline that's going to bring you back. So they're doing all of this, right? So it was very dramatic. But so, that's what they're going to be doing. Meanwhile, everyone else is going to basically X marks the spot, and it's Sam's blood that they're kind of Xing on themselves to, I guess, deter the killers from going directly to Sam. So then, everyone's kind of like waiting around for something to happen. And then we just hear some singing. But the first killer we end up seeing actually is Skullface, who is just charging for Sam and Dina. Sam is charging towards Sam and Dina. But Dina doesn't have a clue this is happening because her back's to the killer. But Sam, who's in a drug-induced state at this point, is just kind of like, turn the fuck around. And eventually she does, and they go running. So, sorry, I'm kind of losing my spot here.
No, you're good.
Okay, meanwhile, we have Kate, who is hiding behind the meat counter. But Skullface ends up finding her and is pulling her by the hair. And because, I guess, with the kerfuffle of everything, one or both of them ends up hitting the meat grinder that ends up turning on. And you're like, oh no. At this point, you kind of know what's about to happen isn't going to be very good. So, it turns on, and Simon is runs into Ruby in the meantime. Josh runs into Nightwing Killer in the meantime. And then Kate, while fighting with Skullface, gets stabbed. But then he picks her up. Somehow picks her up. She lands on the counter somehow. She lands on the counter. For those who haven't watched the movies, and you do want to watch the movies at some point, trigger warning, because what ends up happening is he's pushing her closer and closer to the meat grinder. And she keeps looking back knowing, oh fuck, this is it. And eventually her head gets grinded by this meat grinder. It's so fucked.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
so fucked.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they killed the character. I didn't think they were going to.
Yeah, but we're not done. We got at least one more to go. And it with this too, which actually, again, I always plug Morbid because it's one of my favorite podcasts. They actually covered, they recapped the movies when the movies came out. And Elena is actually, she was she was coroner, and she says, she would say, like, with the deaths in particular, like the killings, they were pretty accurate. So she said, like, that is exactly what would happen if your head went through a meat grinder. Like, it's pretty accurate with, like, it's not like stupid killings, and like it just does not look like at all realistic. Like, these killings are realistic. So I think that's the part of it that's really like, yikes. Like, especially in the second movie and the end. So what was I saying? Sorry. to remember of that. Oh yeah, I was just saying that the killing in 1978 at the end there was gnarly. So yeah, Josh ends up running into the Nightwing Killer. I think I mentioned that. Oh yeah, the nice of Kate got me grinded. So then Simon and Josh see Kate as they run to the front of the aisles, and they see her, and they're obviously very shocked. They look at each other in shock, and it's at that exact moment that Simon gets axed by the Nightwing Killer in the head, which obviously, yeah. So yes, he's dead, but now Sam is not dying, because that's the whole point. We need Sam to die. And she then does eventually die kind of just in time. What ends up happening is Dina ends up drowning her in the tank the lobster was just in, and ends up drowning her, and she does end up dying just in time, and the killers vanish. And then she's brought back to life with EpiPens and CPR, which is, I think, the thing that actually did it. But then anyways, they get questioned by Good, and they're kind of just saying the same story, because obviously we have 2 murder victims now too, and Sam just kind of looks like a ghost at this point, because, well, she actually died, so yeah. But so yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, Good is trying to be like, I can help you, you're not telling me everything, I can help you, and you know, you're not letting me. But yeah, they're all just kind of doing that, and it's all fine, right? And it's in this moment that Josh makes a friend or an acquaintance, and that is the black guy that works at the mall, whose name I don't remember. And that is who he's kind of made an acquaintance, which we talked about at the beginning already, how he made that acquaintance. We don't have to say it again, but he did help him out, and he owes someone, kind of thing. So that's basically that. We also see Sam's mom again, who is a clear homophobe, and that's that. And we're back they go back to the house. We're almost done with this first movie. They go back to the house, everything feels normal, but then the phone rings, and Dina answers the phone. And the woman on the other end says, "You're still alive." "Sorry, ma'am, who are you?" And she's like, "Who is this?" Dina says. And we end up hearing Sam behind Dina. But y'all, it ain't Sam anymore, because Sam has just stabbed Dina in the back, or in the stomach, I should say, actually, when she turned around. Yeah, she stabbed her in the stomach.
Yeah.
This is not Sam anymore. And so I think actually I think I went ahead a little bit prior to her being stabbed. When Dina said, like, "Who is this?" She said, "You called me." And we find out it's Cindy Berman. And she's like, "It's not over. It's never over. She makes the rules." And Dina says, "Who?" She says, "The witch."
The witch.
And we then see her being stabbed at that point, I think. And there's fighting. Josh is absolutely fucking oblivious to everything that's happening. And because I think he's like in the basement or something, but he's completely oblivious to everything that's happening. And you're just not sure who won out the other. But you see someone has kind of appeared behind Josh, and you see them in the screen of the computer. And thank God it's Dina. And he turns around and he's like, "What the hell?" Because like she's been stabbed. You visibly see she's been stabbed. And she's like, they go back upstairs, and she's like, "Sam doesn't feel so good right now." You think? And meanwhile, she's a demon. She's a demon, y'all. And she is just kind of, rattling around and making demon noises, and she's been restrained by the phone cord. So, yeah. And we kind of end off 94 with that. And we are now going to go into 78. So is there anything you want to say about 94 before we head into 78?
Yeah, like I said before, good film altogether.
Okay.
Good moments. Some of them iffy, like I said, but yeah, 3 out of 5 for the first film.
Okay. So part 2 is 1978. So we're going to be meeting someone new. Well, we do meet someone new who has a lot of clocks. And this is who we find out Nick gave that note to in 94. And there's just this excessive knocking at the door once we kind of see her do her routine with the clocks and everything. And she basically uses these clocks, I guess, to make sure she is still doing everything that she needs to do because PTSD, y'all. So this is kind of, she kind of, I guess, maybe goes into her own brain a lot and she needs those clocks to kind of keep her going. So I guess she had fallen asleep and we hear excessive knocking at the door. She's obviously freaking out because she is a murder victim, or she's a survivor of a tragedy. And she's just like, what the hell? And
they're really bullying.
So aggressive with the knocking. And then the next best thing is you crawl through her kitchen window. Excuse me? Trespassing is the way to make sure you get into her house? Like, what is happening here? Anyways, I didn't agree with any of this poor woman. Anyway, but it's just Dina and Josh, like we said, and Sam, who is trapped. Well, she was in the trunk, but then she goes into the bathroom and they keep her there. And they're like, need to help us, we need help, whatever. And all her only request is to just keep Sam away from Major Tom. That's all she wants. So they take a seat and we're going to be learning about the Nightwing Massacre, which is the origin story a little bit of that killer. And it was July 12th, 1978, which was the first day of camp. A week later, my sister was dead. So then this is how we go into 1978 with someone just running. And these mean girls behind her who are just mean.
And they really bully her. Jeez.
That Sheila, she's something else.
Yeah.
He's like gonna set her on fire. Like,
yeah.
I hope she got help. Whatever help she needed, I hope she got it. Like,
did I know I'm going too far into this movie. Did she get killed in the movie?
No, she looks very similar to a Shady Sider, which is actually what I didn't mention in 94. That was Kate's aunt, the one who got killed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's actually two different people, but they do look similar. Sheila is a Sunnyvale. She's from Sunnyvale. In case you've missed it at this point, guys, the only people who are being killed are Shady Siders, not people from Sunnyvale, and we really see that in this movie. So yeah, she didn't get killed, unfortunately. So yeah, I just mentioned, she tries to burn her arm, and then we see, I think it was Nick as well as his brother. I think they're both camp people, the people who do the stuff. I've never been to a camp, guys, so I don't know. But yeah, he kind of there kind of diffuses the situation, and we find out that our runner's name is Iggy. So we see that they're going to be doing this thing called Color Wars, which is going to be the Sunnyvalers against I keep saying Sunny Shaders, the Shady Siders, and it's like Sunnyvale's pink, Shady Side's blue. This is what we're going to be doing. And it's here that we meet Tommy and Cindy. Did I say Cindy Berman? Cindy Berman? That's not right. Cindy is, sorry, I'm not going to give
Cindy. Yeah,
What is Cindy? Okay.
And her sister.
Her sister is Iggy. We're going to leave it there.
Is it Iggy?
Yes, her sister is Iggy. We're not saying who's who at this point. Yes, Iggy is her sister. Yeah. I think I'm getting the names incorrect here. That's probably why I'm confused. But anyways, yes, we meet Cindy Berman. And Cindy she's cleaning up pink moss that's stuck in the outhouse. And they're like, where is this coming from? But then she gets pink moss on her shirt and she's like, she's like, shit. And Tommy's like, did Cindy Berman just swear? Because I guess she doesn't swear. Let's not get confused. She is a shady cider. So is Tommy. So, yeah.
Well, there's also a backstory on her too. So supposedly, what are her friends? What was her friend?
Well, I'm actually gonna get there. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Alice. It's Alice.
Alice, yeah. Told her that like she used to be, someone different, and now
she used to be a very different person.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Which we'll maybe get to at some point. I might forget it, but yeah, we'll get to it. But yeah, she was a different person before. But then she's cleaning the bathroom. She has this realization that something is missing, or maybe someone are missing. And this is the scene that Mikel was talking about in the beginning of the episode, where we see these two people just having sex very gross. Yeah, aggressively is the kind of the term. While Cherry Bomb is playing in the background, it's like Cherry Bomb, and you got all this gun going. Oh my god! When she walks in to this and she sees this Cindy, she's like, "What are you doing?" And it's a stupid question. So Alice responds with 3 guesses. What else do you think she's doing? Or they are doing. And they're like 3 guesses. Anyways, so yes, this is Alice, which is her frenemy, we're gonna say. And there's this clear tension between the two of them because Cindy apparently snitched on Alice previously. We'll get a bit of backstory on that. But we also meet Nurse Lane a little later. Or maybe after this particular scene, because Iggy is, or did I say Iggy? Is it Ziggy? I think it's Ziggy or Iggy. I can't remember. One of the two. Close enough. She goes to Nurse Lane to fix the burn mark on her hand. Y'all, Nurse Lane is Ruby Lane's mother, and she's here at this camp doing her job mere 13 or so years after her daughter killed a bunch of people and herself. So yeah, she's there trying to get that all fixed up. And I guess throughout this they kind of start talking about Ruby and all of this, and she's like, I know you've heard of my daughter. I know people talk about my daughter and all of that. And she's like, she was a great kid. She had a sweet voice. Not anymore. She wanted to be in the choir. But then Nurse Lane just starts like rambling to Ziggy about everything. And it was a little bit uncomfortable because of this. But this is where we find out that Cindy and Ziggy are sisters. So a little after that, we keep hearing flies around Tommy. And you're like, uh-oh, that's not good. He's not dead yet, but the flies are around him. He's also starting to hear his name being called as well. But then all of a sudden, Nurse Lane just kind of comes out of freaking nowhere, goes to Tommy, and she's like, I can't save you. I saw your name. One way or another, you're gonna die tonight. Yikes. And you're just like, what the fuck? Like, can you imagine in that moment she attacks Tommy because she's trying to save everybody, but everyone thinks that she's the kooky Nurse Lane because her daughter killed a bunch of people and herself, that she's kooky and nuts, and she's not trying to save anybody. She's just trying to what's the cost of killing one person versus the other people he ends up killing in a few hours. So Cindy ends up actually hitting her and kind of deals with that. So she goes off to, I guess the net house. I don't know. She goes away and we're going to resume cover wars. at this point. So Tommy is just not looking very good at this point because of them flies and shit. He's not feeling or looking good. And you're just like, oh God. Like, yeah, at least if you're gonna like bring them to the brink of death, you don't have to look that bad on the way there. But anyways, he's not looking so good. So Cindy ends up breaking into the infirmary because she's like, I'm going to get down to the bottom of this, because Tommy really just kind of like, she kept saying that one way or another, I'm going to die tonight. She's talking all this nonsense. And everyone's like, oh, it's the witch. And Cindy's like, no, it's not the witch. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, we don't believe in this, like, whatever. And she is going to bring into the infirmary to kind of come down to the fact of she has to be on drugs. That's the only explanation here. So she does find quote unquote drugs and thinks, this is it. We're going to bring this to the police and we're going to prove that she's a druggie. But we do then end up finding a journal about the witch. Not only is this a journal, but it also has a map that it's a little bit of an interesting map. Will kind of, again, without seeing it, you're not going to be able to visualize it. But for those who did see it, basically it's a map of not only the camp, but it's also a map of, I think it was Union. I think they did say Union at this point.
1666.
So it's Union. There's like kind of overlapping each other, which also has these X's on it, which are X's that represent holes that she has dug. And we're kind of going a little bit ahead here, but because we didn't determine that until they were actually in the woods. But
See, what I thought was like when I saw that, I was like, are you going to go to a multiverse where it's 66?
Well, we do eventually kind of similarly do that, but not yet. But yeah, these exes have that, and we kind of determined that what she's trying to do is find the witch's body. So that's what she was trying to do. So they do kind of come to that determination. Again, it's a little later, but while they're kind of doing this, doesn't Alice just kind of come out of nowhere and is like, give me the drugs, give me the map, we're going to go find Sarah Fear. And she's like, no, I'm going to take these drugs to the police. And she's like, is he going to snitch on everybody? Like, what's wrong with you? Stop being a snitch. So yeah, then we hear that voice again calling out for Tommy. So this is not looking good. So
is it Nick good calling up for Tommy, or is it?
We just gave away. Well, I think we did say earlier who the bad guy is here.
Yeah.
I guess in a sense it would be. Because I will say, like, when we were hearing it with Ryan Torres before, once we kind of knew who it was, it does sound like his voice. Kind of a little bit, like not quite his voice, but it kind of sounds like his voice. Yeah. So could he? Yeah.
All this time from the first two films, I just thought it was the witch. That was witch calling
like
name.
Sarah Fear. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it basically 60.
I mean, in all honesty,
in
all honesty, it is the witch. It's just not who you thought it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is the witch. Sarah Fear is not the witch, y'all. We'll get to it. So, that's basically what's happening. And then we kind of see, like, in the meantime, while they're going out into the woods, Nick and Ziggy seems to be forming this something. This is something. But anyways, we're going to go back to the group now, because that's where the fun stuff is about to happen. We're heading into the woods. Tommy is really not feeling well, y'all. And it's then that Alice falls into this hole. And it's here that they find out that, the holes represent places that she dug. Okay. So she falls into this hole. Then we find the witch's house. Once they kind of dig her out the hole, we find the witch's house. Spoiler alert. Was it? Yeah, it was the witch's house. It was Nick's ancestor's house. It was his house. Okay. Yeah. So they find the house. And they said, or I think Alice said, someone's been here recently. And everyone except Tommy goes into this one section where they find the witch's mark. And we'll get a little bit more information on the witch's mark after. So while they're kind of doing this, her boyfriend, whose name I can't remember, Alice's boyfriend, whose name I can't remember his name, he could, on the pills for the drugs, had this particular, like, I can't remember exactly what the lettering and the numbers and whatever. And they're trying to figure out, like, what is that? It sounds familiar. And he ends up realizing, he's like, it's Tylenol. It's Tylenol. For drugs, it's Tylenol. And they realize, okay, Nurse Lane is not a drug. She just has headaches from time to time and might need some Tylenol. So then Alice goes back to the other section where Tommy is. And no, sorry, was it Alice? Arnie, that's his name, sorry. Arnie, that's her boyfriend's name. Arnie is the one that goes back to the other section where Tommy is. And y'all, he's not okay. He is so not okay that he's not even responding anymore. Okay, he's gone. And then Cindy hears her name, which is interesting. This part of it for me was really confusing. To this day still is. Why were they calling her name? Because I don't know, it was a little weird for me, but yeah, they call her name. But oh no, sorry, I'm confused. I think at one point they do call her name or something, but whatever, sorry, I'm confused. The person calling her name is actually Alice. Alice says, I need to show you something. And she shows her the names on the wall. And on the wall is also Tommy's name. And she doesn't believe this at all. And she's like, what do you think? I etched his name in brick with my finger. Like, it was already here. And it's at this point, while Arnie is alone with Tommy, that Tommy picks up an axe and hits Arnie with it in the head. Arnie is now dead. And in the process of this, I think they were actually heading back into that area, Cindy and Alice, and they saw it right as it was happening. Like, they couldn't have stopped it. And they kind of like run to go back to the other side. And, you know, Tommy like grabs Cindy's leg at one point, but then like, I guess, once they get to another section of the maze, the bricks or the wall comes down, walls them in. And I mean, they're separate from Tommy now at this point. And they're like, you know, Cindy's like crying because she thinks Tommy's dead. Y'all, Tommy ain't dead. Because we hear his breathing in the background. And she's like, he's not dead. Like, how is he not dead? Because he's already dead. So, yeah, Alice was like, he can't get us. He can't get us. But what he can't do is go back to camp and get everyone over there. So, meanwhile, we see again Nikki and Ziggy are getting kind of close. I'm going to kind of go back and forth with that, but we see this relationship forming between the two of them. And back to the fun stuff, Cindy is like, you know, he was possessed. It was the witch. And then Cindy, I think, leaves Alice to find a way out. She says, don't follow me because they don't have to fight and all this, whatever. But she ends up just going in a circle. And here's again where she hears her name. This is definitely someone's calling out her freaking name. I don't know why. Because I don't know if you have a theory for this, but when I'm hearing this, I'm just like, the names are supposed to be calling out the people, I guess, who are supposed to be ending up to be killers. So then why would her name be a part of that? I don't, unless he just wants to kill her because Ziggy, so he thinks, hates her. Like, I don't know. It's weird. It was very weird for me. But nonetheless, she hears her name and she runs into Alice again. And she's like, he just went into a circle. And they end up realizing, I think the symbol, something, there's a symbol, I guess in the book or something, I can't remember. It's actually a map in this particular maze. Meanwhile, Tommy is back at camp. Tommy, who's not Tommy anymore. And we go to I can't read my handwriting here. That happens in games. But yeah, you should hear me on my other podcast. Sometimes this happens. But yes, he's at camp anyways, and he's obviously going to be going after Shady Siders. And, we see kind of, I guess, one particular thing where Sunny Veilers, I think, were captured by Shady Siders, and they were set free, which basically leaves, I can't remember if it was only one kid by themselves. I think it was one kid in this particular instance, who was the person holding them, who was by himself. And then Tommy comes in after the Veilers are gone, comes in and accesses this poor kid with his glasses on, and just I'm really happy they didn't show any of this with the kids, because I can't. I would have been out if they did, but they don't show that, which is really good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
But anyway, back with Nick and Ziggy, they are talking, flirting, kind of talking about, legacies and shit like that, because he'll obviously have a legacy to protect. And he's like, it's a lot. He's like, what if I just want to be with the weird girl from Shady Side? And then they kiss, but then they're interrupted by a scream because someone has discovered the body of Glasses Kid, who all we see is like a pool of blood and his glasses just kind of sitting in the middle of it, which was really heartbreaking. That was really sad. I hate that. Even if it's fictional, I hate that.
Yeah.
So we kind of realize we have an issue on our hands. But back with Cindy and Alice, they're trying to find their way out, of course. And she's like, would you kill Tommy if you have to? Alice asks her this, and she was like, well, I froze when Nurse Jane tried to, so I don't think so. And we hear something that also has the sound of these flies, but this thing also sounds like a heartbeat. Like, literally sounds like a heartbeat. And they find the source, and it basically looks like a brain. This brain that just keeps...
Brain.
That's how I describe it.
I felt like it
what
was
do
like
you describe it as?
The heart. It looked like a heart to me on the ground.
That actually makes a lot more sense than what I said. Yeah. But doesn't it not look a little brainy? Come on. It looks like a little brainy, but I can definitely... The heart thing makes sense. The heart of the devil. Yeah. I'm an idiot. Anyway. The heart of the devil. There you go. So it's this heart thing. Whatever. But it's like a beating. It's like black, and there's flies around. It's like burn, burn. It's like, and then you hear the flies go burn, 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 burn. Like it's the weirdest thing. And this now heart, because I only have brain right now here now, but the heart is calling Alice's name, and she ends up touching it. And when she does, she sees all of the murderers. She sees some of the murder victims as well. She also sees Cindy as well. When she looks at Cindy, and she looks dead, y'all. And what's kind of significant here is she looks dead in the way, maybe I shouldn't say that yet, but she looks dead. I was going to say that. We're going to leave it there, just because I don't want to give it away yet. But she looks very, very dead, and I'll talk about it when we get there. And yeah, it's a lot. So when she sees this, she ends up actually like running away, and ends up falling down, and she hurts herself really badly. So, yeah. Back at camp, though, trying to get all of the campers safe and, out of harm's way. But people are obviously missing. Ziggy wants to go look for people, but Nick is like, no, you stay here, because he understands more than anyone else here that he's going to go after Shady Siders. And she's a Shady Sider. So she needs to stay clear of all of this. So he's like, do not leave this cabin. Then Ziggy, as Nick leave, remembers something. I didn't mention this. Now Sheila gets her comeuppance at that one point, because she wanted to carry her, but instead of carrying her, carry Karrie, they ended up actually sticking her in the outhouse by trapping her with Good's brother
Yeah.
saying, oh, he wants to, like, you know, and instead she gets like carried by bugs.
Roaches.
Roaches, yeah. And they locked her in the outhouse.
Yeah.
So Ziggy remembers, oh shit, Sheila. And she tries to tell Nick, but Nick is like nowhere to be found. And she's like, shit. So she has to go and save her herself because we need to go save Sheila. Left Sheila in there. Sheila's fine. And she's fine. Meanwhile, anyways, we got more people, I guess, in a cabin. Sorry, I'm confused here. He goes to the bathroom. Oh, yeah. There we go. I remember now. This is the scene that you thought that it was actually Sheila who got killed, but it was actually Kate's aunt who got killed. So it was their... She's a Shady Sider. He's from Sunnyvale. There's a lot of sex in this particular movie.
Yeah.
They're having sex as well. This is more realistic, I think. I would think, because no? How do you have sex?
Not really. A little, overdoing it with that bit, in my opinion. A little bit, not too much. Like,
I mean, okay.
You got the woman dropping in the air or something like that, but come on.
Again, how do you have sex?
I mean,
that's
you don't drop in
not
the
to
air
go
like
personal, but
you don't drop in the air like you're Michael Jordan dunking for the
why not?
NBA finals.
I don't know. Maybe he is blessed. So you need to go a little higher up. We don't know.
Oh my God.
Anyways, they're having sex anyways. They at least finish. Yeah. At least she got to at least have sex one last time before she dies. And he goes and he showers, leaves her alone, and she's smoking weed. And Tommy walks in and she's like, what the hell? And he axes her in the head. Yep.
Yep.
So that's a wrap on her. And yeah, so we go back to our duo, Alice and Cindy. And Cindy starts seeing the pink moss. And she starts to realize, I think we're close to camp. Because again, the pink moss is also in the outhouse. So she's correct. We are definitely close to camp. So meanwhile, Nick is trying to, end the game, saying it's over. Some Shady Siders are alone in a cabin. And they were actually being trapped by Sunnyvalers. And they's like, I hear Nick saying, this game's over. Like, we'll go check it out. So they're left alone, completely in the dark. And of course, here comes Tommy and kills all of them. It's like 4 or 5 of them all get killed. Done. So it's a wrap on those kids as well for things. Ziggy is at the outhouse to try to save Sheila, who I would have left her. But Sheila, of course, is the bitch that she is, and she tries to attack. But then we hear Cindy and Alice at the outhouse as well, and one of them actually can hear the what's going on. And one of the counselors, whose name again I cannot remember, but he's a Shady Sider. He sees everything and he sees Ziggy and he's like, what's going on? And we find out that they're down there. We need to help them and all this. Nick finds the other bodies. Meanwhile, finds the other bodies that were just killed recently. And the nerve of this guy of him throwing up. Like, I want to be like, you put that throw up back in your mouth and swallow, sir. You have no leg to stand on to be throwing up over seeing some dead bodies that you caused. Anyways, meanwhile, back at the outhouse, Tommy shows up and kills, I think his name is Gary. Okay, so yes, Gary gets killed and his body falls into one of the holes, like the outhouse holes. And falls right on top of Alice, who's already hurt. And Ziggy obviously has to run away because Tommy and Nick finds her and they run into a cabin. Tommy runs after them and, eventually does find Ziggy. And he only goes after Ziggy. He does, I think because Nick tries to protect her. That's the only reason he got hurt. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten hurt. But I think, I'm not sure exactly. I think she's able to then run away. I can't remember exactly the logistics here, but She gets out of that cabin, goes to a different cabin, which is the meeting house, I believe, is where she ended up. And she turns music on, and you just hear "Carry On My Wayward Son." We heard in the beginning. And I guess the music is supposed to drown her out so he can't hear her. But then it also drowns out Cindy because she's like calling out, but no one can hear her. So we kind of see her banging on the thing to get out, whatever. Meanwhile, they're doing their thing in the meantime. But he does eventually get her, or finds her, because the music cuts out. And just in the nick of time, Cindy gets out, and she either stabs him or something. I don't even know. But kills him. Oh, but the part that's important here that I forgot to mention, the kind of completes the Nightwing killer, is while they're fighting, Ziggy gets like a burlap sack, puts it around his head, but of course it doesn't actually do anything. It just completes the look. So that's how he has the burlap sack on, is because of Ziggy.
If you didn't see him in the 94.
Well, if you saw him in 94, you still don't understand why he has this burlap sack around him, right? But you kind of then have the understanding as to why. Which I thought was like really.
It's a really cool little nod. Like it's telling the story really slowly how he become that type of monster.
That was really cool. So they think it's over because he's dead, right? Well, meanwhile, Alice comes back because she found another way out. We see the buses have left, so they're literally stuck there now. But it's while Alice is there that she says, "I found it. I found the witch's hand." So down there in the outhouse part, the hand of Sarah Fier's hand was found, because remember they said, I don't know if I mentioned it, her hand was cut off, whatever. So they think that her hand holds the grip on everybody. So they found the hand. So they figure if we can reunite the hand with the body, which the body they suspect is buried underneath the tree that she was hung on, which is just by the campsite, they can end the whole thing. Unfortunately, though, while they're having this discussion on all of this and gonna do this, we have other killers coming. We don't know that right away, but we do have other killers coming. And not only that, Tommy is now back alive and kills Alice. I hated this. I mean, I guess like I'm a Shonda Rhimes girl. I'm used to people you like being taken away from you, but I really hated this. But yeah, she's now dead now, and Cindy does kill Tommy again by decapitating him. Again, don't know what that's gonna do. All it's gonna do is just gonna go back together. Of course, we don't know this, but yeah, or she doesn't know this. That's basically what happens. So because they hear, I think it's Ruby who comes up first because we hear the singing. That's when they dip out, try to bury the hand, but the hand's not working, or that they were burying, or I don't know if they buried the hand or realized the body isn't there. Oh yes, they were digging to find the body, and they realized the body's not there. Instead, it's like this chain that we will see the chain later, but it's this chain. I don't remember what the chain said, but something about Sarah Fear was here or something like that. And the chain was there, but obviously the body is not there. We know where the body is. It's not there. So you're like, I don't know what to do. They're literally at a loss. And Cindy says, Ziggy, you gotta run. It's you they want. You gotta run. And yeah, basically how this scene kind of plays out is this is where we meet the Humpty Dumpty killer, who is annoying as hell. his stupid little hitting of the stupid bat thing. I'm like, shut up. You have the milkman who is disgusting. Okay, he's disgusting. I wouldn't want to encounter him at all. He likes to lick women. He's gross. There. And I don't remember if we meet the guy. No, we don't meet the guy with the mask thing until later. I don't think he was there.
No, I don't think he was never there.
No, I think it was Humpty Dumpty, Milkman, Ruby, and Nightwinkler. I think it was just them. And basically, I think Tommy kills Cindy. He axes her. And Ziggy gets attacked by the milkman. And the part that was crazy to me with this is while they're literally one's being stabbed to death, one's being axed to death, they're like that. I mean, I can't really put this scene to justice. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, like they're still like kind of like communicating.
They're communicating with each other
in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and like they're reaching out to each other. It's nuts.
Yeah, but kind of disturbing. A little bit disturbing.
It's disturbing. It is disturbing, but it's also, if you look past that part of it, it's like it brings on a lot of different emotions. But yes, disturbing is definitely one because like you can hear everything.
Yeah, emotion.
Every stab, every axe, you hear everything.
I'm like, they're already dead.
Yeah, but here's why the reason I have a theory that actually kind of just came to me while talking about this is they're going to keep going because their purpose is to kill the person that they're supposed to kill. Whether that was supposed to be Ziggy or it's supposed to be Cindy, we'll never really truly know.
Right.
But I do wonder if the reason they kept going because both of them had to die, because they both have essentially have the same blood coursing through them because they're siblings. Right. So I do wonder if both of them had to die for them to stop, because once they both died, they were gone. It stopped. So yes, both of them are dead. Both Ziggy and Cindy are dead. You're thinking, well, clearly one of them has to come back to life. And I'm curious to know, which person did you think this was? Because for me, the entire time, I thought the person that's telling us the story, the person they went to was Cindy, and it ended up being Ziggy instead. That's the one that's telling us this. Because I don't know, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone in that. But I don't know why I thought that.
I wasn't confused by that. Basically, she was telling the story of what happened.
No, but we don't know which sister it is because they purposely did it in such a way where we don't know which sister it is until we see Ziggy wake up. But I just don't remember why I was confused by that, because again, this movie came out in when did it come out again? A few years.
2021.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 2021. I don't know why I was confused by it, but I remember being like, who is it? Like, because when you saw Cindy, or you saw Alice's vision of Cindy being dead, you're like, well, that doesn't make sense because she's gonna live. That was, I remember one of my thoughts being. But anyways, Cindy is the one.
Oh, so at the time she was when she was like, stabbed to death, and then you thought she was dead.
Yeah.
And then what's his name comes in and just like revives her, like
Nick comes back and wakes her back up.
That does for me. I'm like the guy, the monster stabbed her to death. I'm like, how the hell is she alive from that? That's what my mind
he stabbed her. Yes.
Yeah.
And she did die. But it's not impossible for someone he did CPR on her. It's not impossible.
The way how the monster just like basically just stabbed her dead, stabbed her artery, stabbed her liver.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
like,
Stabbed everything. And
yeah,
had
like,
to finish it off by licking her face. But
yeah.
I get that. But what I'm trying to say, it's not impossible to revive someone back to life. I mean, it's CPR, but it's like, it's not impossible. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're pumping the heart too, right? So if there is already, like, if she's not fully gone yet, like I mean, she had to die. But if you can bring people back. Like, even in car accidents, people have said like they die, but then like they come back. Like, it's not impossible. So I'm not necessarily surprised by that. It's not impossible. But yeah, he Mikel said it. He comes, revives her, and she is alive. And they're like, "You're Ziggy." Like the Josh and Dina. They're like, "Oh, you're Ziggy." And yeah, I can't remember what her name is because they saw C. Berman, and I think her name's not Cindy, but I know it's like close to that. Anyways, so they know now that she's Ziggy. And while Ziggy's being taken to an ambulance, she says to Nick, "This was the witch. The witch did this, and blah, blah, blah. You have to believe me." And he believes her, obviously. But when this cop guy comes to him and he's like, "What happened here, Nick?" Because he's like, "Oh, you're going to be the sheriff one day," and blah, blah. And like, "What happened here?" And he's like, "Just another shady sider went nuts," basically is what he says. Now, the part that I want to point out here, because I was going to point this out, that cop is the same cop who basically told Dina and Sam to go get their boyfriends to tell them to relax. It's the same guy. So, yeah, he was a douche then, and he's a douche in the 94 too. So, yeah, that's what he says. The other thing I want to mention here that I think is significant for the next movie is the bodies lined up in front of the meeting house. That's pretty significant. Significant for the sense of what we're about to see in 1666 for those who didn't watch it, we'll get to it. But yeah, that's the significance of it. And then that's kind of how 78 ends. So they kind of go back to the present, and they kind of mention, we know where the body is. The body's not there by the tree or whatever. We know where the body is. We saw the body. And I guess the entire time, Ziggy's had the hand. Am I correct? Did she have the hand? Or am I wrong?
I
can't remember.
No.
There was a reason she went back to the body.
She went to the mall. Went to the shady I think what's his name? Tim, the brother, and went to the mall to dig out.
No, they didn't go because she's not at the mall. Remember, the body was on the side of the road. It's not the mall that she was buried.
No, the hand. They're looking for the hand.
Oh, thank you.
Those two. Yeah, those two were looking.
So yes, Mikel's right. They go to the mall to get the hand because, as we're kind of seeing, this is kind of making sense here. The hand is buried by the tree that was mentioned earlier when Heather was killed by Brian. So if you're kind of starting to understand this, Shadyside Mall used to be the campsite. So that main part of the mall was like where they were killed, quote unquote. So they dig up the hand and they go to the body, and it's just Dina that goes. Josh stays back because she tells him to. And while she's doing this, Dina, I guess, starts bleeding on the hand, and she sees the witch, and even more so, she becomes Sarah Fear. And we are now in 1666 with her being Sarah Fear. So we're now going to get a backstory on Sarah
much
Fear,
pretty much origin story.
the
How
origin story. Yeah.
how everything like started, and which makes sense because like at first I just didn't I didn't understand what was going from 94 to
Yeah.
1978, and then it just clicked in.
I
on
felt
that
the same way when I
six-
watched it the first
Yeah,
time. It's like,
yeah.
why does it go backwards? And you
Yeah.
quickly find out why. But before we
Mhm.
head into 1666, what did you think of 1978?
Yeah, 1970. Yeah, it's a good film. It's another one. It's not a good film. Like I said, it has like good moments, and then has its like iffy moments as well. It's just like the first one. So
I mean, 1978 for me was actually my favorite one.
is it the best? Do you feel it's well, since we haven't gone through 666, but do you feel like it's the best one out of the three in a way?
Honestly,
Like,
I don't know if I can say it's the best because I like all three of them. They're all the same feels and everything like that. So that's not, but I guess it's for me personally. 1978 is my favorite one. I think just with everything, it's the people, the styles, the music, all of that is, and I think the Nightwing Killer is gnarly as hell. So I really like 78 a lot. I definitely like it more than 94. I will agree with that part. I do like it more. With 1666, it's so different due to the time. It's I like stuff like that too, but when I have to compare it to other movies in the same series, I'm gonna go for the 70s because I was a child that was born in the wrong era. So I love 78.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I will agree with that too. Like it's I feel like it's the best one out of the three, but like I said, it's like all three of them are good films.
Yeah. What I love about 1666 is getting the answers. That's the part I like about 1666 is getting the answers, getting the people or person, I should say, getting their comeuppance from that. Like that all for me is what I love about 1666. So well, let's get into it now. We're doing 1666, last movie of the series. And we are in
slash 1994 part 2.
Yeah, but it's only titled 1666, so we don't want to confuse anybody who hasn't watched it yet. But yes, part 2 of 94 is in 1666. But so we are in Union, like I said, 1666, with Sarah and her brother Henry, who is played by Josh. So we're gonna see, what I like about this movie too is we're seeing familiar faces playing these roles. And they're going to be delivering some baby pigs, some piglets from this really big pig. One is going to be going to a man named Solomon Good. Solomon Good is the ancestor of Nick Good. So we go into the settlement. We hear something around the lines of full moon rises before the land and whatever the fuck.
Full moon rises before nightfall. A good night to enjoy the fruits of the land.
Basically, this is like, I guess, a thing that they're like a secret code because they're going to be going out into the woods and doing nonsense. Not much has really changed, really, 1666 kids were doing some things they weren't supposed to be doing like we do today. So we meet Pastor Miller. Pastor Miller is important to the story. We kind of already talked about him a little bit, but he's important in the story. And with Pastor Miller, I think we hear some people say Pastor Miller blind as a bat, and he has eyes in the back of his head and whatever. And they're playing. He seems like a really nice person playing around with the kids. And yeah, he seems great. This seems nothing wrong with him yet. So we also meet Hannah Miller, who is Pastor Miller's daughter, who is played by Sam. And there also might be a little something, a brewing between Sarah and Hannah. So we see some similarities between the two storylines here. We meet Thomas, played by Tommy. I see what you did there, who is a little bit of a, unfortunately, mental health awareness wasn't a thing in 1666 because I think he needs it. He's a little cuckoo magoo, but we're gonna kind of see a little bit from him. He's the guy that you see ranting about God and whatever and the evils of the world and stuff like that. That's kind of Tommy's role here, or Thomas, I should say. Then we meet Solomon, obviously played by Nick Good. And I kind of liked his look in 1666. Like, I really liked his look in 1666.
He was like, in a way, no offense, like, for religious, Jesus.
Really? You think?
Yeah. The
Well,
beard.
people will say that Jesus is not a white man because he's not.
Yeah.
He's not a white man. But I see what you're saying. I mean, yeah. Not to offend anybody because he's a witch, y'all. Spoiler alert. So yeah, we kind of can gather here that maybe he wants to marry Sarah, or Sarah's kind of already like supposed to be going with, I don't know. He was married prior. His wife died. I don't know if he had kids prior. Can't remember. But clearly at some point, like that kind of happened. And he seems to kind of seclude himself away from the rest of the settlement. So we're kind of seeing all of this and kind of unfolding and understanding kind of what's happening here. So now we're going to be going to this little get together that everybody's going to be going on out in the woods at night. But we have to go get some berries, which I think is supposed to be drugs or like I think it's supposed to be like hallucinogenics, or probably getting that word wrong here, but that's what they're kind of going to be doing. And go figure, the person who is leading all of this is a person played by Kate Lord. So they're going to be going to the widow. Well, I'm trying to use their accent here, but they're going to be going to the widow to go get these berries. So they go into the widow's house, who I guess they suspect is a witch, but they're going into the widow's house unannounced, just let themselves in. She's nowhere to be found at first, and they're trying to find the berries. But Sarah kind of goes off on a little bit of a detour and finds this book. And turns to this page in the book that talks about, like, the devil and sacrificing and all of this kind of, Satan and Beelzebub. It's talking about all of that. So, but while she's kind of chanting this, here comes the widow, and she says, "I would stop if I were you, because what the hell? You're reading someone's book. What's wrong with you?" Anyways, the widow is played by Nurse Lane. So we're just kind of, again, seeing this. But they get the berries. They run away because she's a little menacing. So we're gonna go now. So then we see everyone getting into the berries. They're having fun, whatever. And we then see, I can't remember exactly who this person was. It wasn't, I keep thinking it's Thomas, but it wasn't Thomas. So I need to remember, Caleb, that's his name. So while they're doing their own thing, this sick man, Caleb, goes up to Hannah and just thinks because he's a man with a penis and she's a woman with a vagina that he can just help himself. Basically, he's attempting to rape her, is basically what's happening here. And Hannah is like, "Get off of me." And Sarah kind of comes in and she's like, "She said no, dude. Like, that's not what she said because it's 1666. But she's like getting involved and basically making him stop. And I guess I'm not sure what happened and why this happened. Maybe I'm just not remembering correctly. But he like pees himself. I think did he pee himself, or he was just hard? Oh, he was just hard. Sorry, that's what happened. He was just hard, and he was just like there, and everyone can see it because the clothes of 1666 doesn't really hide that very well. And he's embarrassed and all this and whatever. He runs away. Sarah and Hannah run away as well. And while they're kind of running away, stuff happens between them while they're in their own secluded area. There's a lot happening sexual wise. And then they kind of hear something like a twig snapping. And so they think that someone's obviously seen them.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened. So
Yeah, a lot of stuff is happening and kind of at once. Who did you think was there? Because we did see, I think, no, I don't know if we saw Thomas there, but we did see Thomas a little later. But who did you think it was?
I didn't think about it.
You didn't?
No,
Okay.
I didn't think about an individual. I just think it was anybody that was
Okay.
in the woods.
Okay. But we do find out who that was.
Yeah,
Let us come back. But yeah, they run back to the settlement, and because they thought they were seen, and you're like, no one saw us, blah, blah, blah. But then I guess they might have kissed again. I'm not sure. But Thomas does see that. And Thomas is like, sinners, blah, blah, sinners, and, rambling. Yeah. So the next morning, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was saying that they're saying witch.
What's he calling her a witch at that point?
I think so. I thought that's what you were saying, like sinners and witch.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't remember if he was if they were using witch at that point. But anyway, the next morning, Sarah is looking for Mary Boy. Mary Boy is her dog, because when she went to sleep, Mary Boy came in to sleep with her. So where did Mary Boy go? She's looking around for Mary Boy, doesn't know where Mary Boy is. He's nowhere to be found. And then Hannah comes out of nowhere and she's like, something is wrong with my father. Something's up. And I think at this point they do go to Pastor Miller's house. He's just sitting in his bed, facing the wall, chanting to himself. And you're just like, what the hell? Like, no, he's clearly possessed. And she's like, did we do this because of what we did? Like, is it, whatever? And she's like, no, you have to summon the devil, whatever the hell. Like, no, we didn't do this, whatever. But then her mom shows up, who's also played by Sam's mom. So no one else could play this role than a homophobe. So they just keep that kind of going. And she literally, like, shoves Sarah out of the house because she's like, everyone is talking. You defiled my daughter, whatever. Because Thomas saw them. Thomas has been talking. And everyone knows that something happened between Sarah and Hannah. Great. So she goes back to her house. And I think her dad kind of shows up and is like, I raised you like boys because your mom's not here, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this nonsense. Anyway, and then I think this is at this point where we see her like pouring, I guess, with flour or something. And we see like bugs in the flour. We see bugs in the apples. And then I think this is when Henry comes and says, the pig ate the babies. I hated this scene entirely. No. Kids, animals, baby animals, I can't. So she goes to the pig and you see the remnants of her babies. She's eating her babies. And what ends up having to happen is Sarah ends up killing the pig because, well, something's clearly wrong with her to be eating her babies.
Yeah, I thought that was messed up. She did the right move by, because I would have done that too.
I would have done that too. I think I would have done that too. I mean, we're babies. We're babies. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's after that. Sorry, we say the food being rotting. Solomon comes by and Sarah ends up telling him kind of what happened with Hannah the night before. And he says, well, it was just a dalliance, right? Right? No? Not a dalliance? This is who you are? Okay. So, and he's like, you can't just summon the devil all willy-nilly. You have to actually, with intent, want to summon the devil. And my question to Solomon in this moment is, how do you know? Do you know from experience? How do you know this? But you're kind of questioning a little bit, but not enough to really be like, oh, there's something wrong with him. I didn't think anything was wrong with him at this point. I thought, okay, he's just speaking, 1666, and this is what you talk like, so it's fine. But yeah, he kind of, tries to help her out and whatever and comfort her. But then we hear some screaming. Actually, did we hear screaming at this point? When did she figure out Mary Boy? She found out Mary Boy before this, or after? I don't remember. Sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit because I thought I wrote this down. And I thought it happened prior to Pastor Miller. We do find out where Mary Boy is. Mary Boy was in the well, dead. So now their well is now poisoned because there was a dead dog in it. So if you're kind of seeing kind of what's happening here. Yeah, we're seeing Union kind of falling apart here. So yes, we hear screaming. And we find out that Pastor Miller has locked himself in the church with the children of Union. So the children of Union will include Henry. There's also another kid played by Ziggy is there as well. So yeah, not great. So we see all the townfolk trying to break down the door. Solomon's able to get in there and he said, I'll go in first. He walks into the church, and again, we hear Pastor Miller chanting. So, yeah, he walks into the church, and the very first thing that he sees, besides Pastor Miller at the podium, which I need to ask this question before we go any further. How screwed up were you feeling? Because I know for me, I was feeling really screwed up with the tapping on the podium. And he kept tapping on the podium with whatever the heck he was tapping on. It was screwing me up. I don't know about you. No?
No, not really. Not for me. I was
it bothers me every time.
So
I get shivers.
So if he was tapping, that means that was the small origin story of what's his name, the guy that you hate, the monster that you hate, you don't like.
The Humpty Dumpty killer.
Yeah.
Well, Humpty Dumpty killer came after him, so technically wouldn't be his origin story. But
no, really, it was
Humpty Dumpty Pastor Mill was the first one. He's the first one, so no, Humpty Dumpty came after him. But I think maybe that's why I have an issue with it, because that's probably why I hate Humpty Dumpty, because he keeps hitting the bat. So maybe I have an issue with this because of that. Maybe I have misophonia. Maybe that's what's going on here. But it bothers me every single time. There's not a point in time where I'm like, I can do this and not feel just weird listening to him. Because not only is he tapping, he does very rhythmic taps, but then it gets faster and faster and faster. I'm just like, ugh. Okay. So anyways, yes, Solomon sees eyeballs in the middle of the ground. And not only, it's when he sees the eyeballs and Pastor Miller looks, I don't know if he looks up at him at this point or it's when Sarah comes in, but he looks up and he sees, oh, Pastor Miller has gouged his own eyes out as well. And not only has he gouged eyes as well, because he also gouged out the children's eyes. So they're all dead. He killed all of them. Yeah, he's still going. That's interesting. But yes, once people come in and see, obviously the kids are dead. And the main thing here that we're going to mention is Sarah comes in, finds Henry, and Henry's right at the front, right by Pastor Miller. And he looks up at her and he moves off of the podium And he's going directly for Sarah. He is trying to kill her and only her. Well, besides the fact that he killed the kids, but he is trying to kill her too. And Solomon saves her by stabbing Pastor Miller in the side with what looked like a rake. And that is the end of Pastor Miller. Pastor Miller is now dead, really dead. So then we see all of the men a little later on in the meeting house, basically trying to say, he was a man of God, devil, devil at work here, blah, blah. So yeah, they're trying to figure out like what happened. How did the devil come to union is the term that they're using. And, they're like starting to kind of say, okay, this is what's important, and we'll talk about it when we start to talk about the witch trials. This is important because what happens here is that they're all kind of being like, we didn't see anything. We didn't see anything. Clearly, though, there's witchery afoot. We didn't see anything. And then you have one person, that being Caleb, literally saying, she possessed me, and, she danced with the devil and whatever. Like, he's talking about Hannah. And somehow I think Sarah gets roped into that as well, but I can't remember exactly how. But anyways, the initial name being called as Hannah's name, and then whatever. And then all you kind of see is Solomon kind of being like, you're all lying. You didn't see anything, whatever. Like, stop this nonsense. But then what ends up happening is all the men in the meeting house is kind of saying, I saw Hannah Miller. I saw Sarah Fear. Well, they didn't see shit. But it doesn't matter, because all that matters within the witch trials is that you had one person say it and everyone else follows behind, even if they didn't see anything, even if they're making it up. But that's what you need in order to condemn someone to witchery. That's what you need.
Right.
And this is a movie, yes, but this happened in real life. This is what would happen. So yeah, now while this is happening, Sarah and Hannah are eavesdropping on everything, and they can see, oh shit, we're screwed. And basically you kind of see people going back to their homes, making sure none of the women, let me stress this, don't have the mark of the witch, which was basically, if God forbid, if you had dimples or something, or you had some sort of mole, or you had any sort of beauty mark, you are screwed in the 1600s or the late 1600s, I should say, because you were a witch. That was their mentality. So that's what they're doing here, is checking for the mark of the witch. And yeah, so that's basically what they're doing. So now that they're going to be going after Hannah and Sarah, which Hannah's mom is just like, I don't know her. It's like literally like, I don't know what I would do at that time, because I think of the time, even if you were to try to defend your loved one, you might also get in trouble. But at the same time, like, this is your child. I don't care. I'm in trouble. I'm not going to sit there and let my child be killed. It's not going to happen. But that's what she does. And then Sarah's father drinks himself half to death because, well, both of his children are going to be killed, or have been killed, or will be obviously killed. So he's in a stupor at this point. The line ends with him. The line ends because some of these people, we can see the lineage has continued, but like obviously Solomon's line continues. There's another line I think continues as well, but like the Miller line ends here, the Fear line ends here, the line ends. But so yeah, that's basically what they're going to be doing. So basically, in a nutshell, Sarah decides, I can't remember how it happened, but Hannah does get captured, and she tells Sarah to run. And instead of her actually running, she runs back to the church to tell her, they want a witch, I'll give them a witch. So that's what she ends up doing. So she does run back out into the woods. She's like, that's book that I saw at the widow's house. I'm going to go back to that and get the book because, yeah. When she goes to the widow's house, though, book is gone and the widow's dead. Like, the widow got her neck slit. She's dead. So clearly someone has taken that book and someone has put a curse on Union. And I guess from there, she runs to Solomon's house because I think like he's close by, runs to Solomon's house and says that like, I went to the widow's house. She had this book of incantations. The book is gone. She's dead. And he's like, you could tell he's sweating a little bit. But again, you kind of shrug it off because you're just like, whatever, right? He's a good guy. He's good. Hence the last name. So you're thinking, whatever, right? Okay. But while he's having this conversation with her, the town folk go to Solomon and they're like, we want to search your house to make sure Sarah's not here. And he's like, she's not here. You're not coming in. But they force their way in. She's hiding in his bedroom, but then finds this little cubby hole. It's big enough for her to fit through. And she goes into this area. And you're thinking, this looks familiar. And she goes into this area that is basically this close-off area, but then which is very similar to an area we saw in 78. But then she goes into another area that is definitely very similar to 78 because it's the same freaking area with the witch's mark, with the blood and everything. Because actually that circle thing with the blood, it was blood. It was the black blood. But yeah, she sees that. And there's like candles and stuff. And she's like, what the hell? And she sees like the wall that has Pastor Miller's name on the wall. And on the one hand, it saves her life in the moment because the people were looking for her. On the other hand, it's not going to go good. So Nick ends up finding her in there. And it's basically like, okay, so let me explain. He explains himself and says, like, I'm tired of having things being taken away from me and not getting, well, what is deserved and whatever. And he did this, and he says, one soul. It just takes one soul that I have to, give every few years or whatever. I'll have everything that I ever want. And she's like, one soul, he killed the kids of Union. It's one soul, but then that one soul kills other people. So it's not just one soul. And she's like, you're the witch. Like, you're whatever, right? And he's like, you could join me. You could be my wife and, you'd be safe and whatever. Blah, 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 like talking nonsense. And she's like, no. No, thank you. And I guess at this point, like, they're attacking each other. I'm not gonna keep zeroing on at each time.
Yeah.
There's certain points in this section of the movie that we are seeing actual Sarah fear, which will coincide to like the visions and stuff that people see, where they see like her screaming and this and that. It's because of what's happening in this moment. It's not because she's necessarily evil, because now we know she's not the evil one here. It's Solomon. But yeah, we're not going to talk about that every single time, but we are going to see like those visions happening throughout the movie. So anyways, he attacks her or hits her, I think, over the head with something, and she's bleeding and whatever. And she's running around. He's running after her. Sarah, whatever. So he's like running after her, whatever. And she does get, I'm going to kind of go through this quickly. She does get to now we're going to call it the beating heart, the heart thing. And she's like, oh, like, and I think that calls her name. I think it calls her name too. Not sure. But anyways, she sees that, whatever. But she goes past it. I don't think she touches it. I think she's smart not to touch it. And she gets into this bigger area of the thing that, again, very much resembles the outhouse, if you remember. So we're seeing the correlation here. And she tries to climb up the wall. And actually, was her hand taken off at this point? Her hand wasn't taken off at this point, was it? No, she still had all her hands. She still had both her hands. So yeah, she's crawling up the wall and she's like trying to get to freedom. And he pulls her down because she didn't get very far. He pulls her back down and he's like on top of her and he's basically being like a stage 5 clinger of Sarah, you know, just be with me, love me, and whatever. He's gross. And he is like trying to get her to stay with him. And obviously she doesn't trust him because he's this warlock. And yeah, she doesn't trust him. And the part where he cuts her hand off is, like I can see it, and it's just like he hits her hand with the knife, so it's like dangling.
It was gruesome.
It was bad. It was the cutting of the hand part, where it's just kind of dangling there, was gnarly in of itself.
So was that the hand that they found in?
That was the hand that they found. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the hand.
Yeah.
So, but the thing too, the part, like, you think, okay, it just got like cut off, whatever. No. He literally takes her hand and pulls the hand off of her arm. Just, you can, like I'm literally seeing it, pulling her hand off, and she's screaming obviously the whole time because it hurts. But yeah, he does that, and she is able to get away once her hand is now cleanly off of her body. Runs away, and she is in this closed off area by herself for a bit, and she's able to like wrap her hand up and whatever, and because she's not doing so good, y'all. Her hand's ripped off, her pet's bleeding, she looks like death. Anyway, she ends up finding this place that is, I don't know if she knew exactly where it was at this point, but it's boarded off, and she is like, okay, I'm gonna beat through this thing, try to get out of here. So she beats through it, very reminiscent to Cindy when she is beating off of the thing, and you start to realize, oh, the meeting house was the church in Union. So we're seeing the correlation here. And she gets through a lot easier, I think, than Cindy, but she gets through, and she is like crawling through the floorboards, and you're thinking, oh, she's safe. She's gonna tell everybody that it's Solomon. It's not me. I can show you. And she gets to the front door, and she, I guess, I don't know if it's due to pain or what, but she doesn't say anything at first. And then here comes Solomon right behind her and says, I found the witch. And that's the end of that. So, of course, at the end of the day, there's nothing she can say that anyone's going to believe. Let's remember here, she's a woman in 1666, so they're not going to believe her anyways. And yeah, so they're going to go to the tree to hang both Sarah and Hannah. And they're like, confess. And she's like, I confess. Sarah says, I confess. I, charmed, or whatever the term she used, like she danced with the devil and she possessed Hannah Miller and all of this. Like she's taking ownership for everything. And Hannah is like freaking out. She's like, no, it wasn't her. But whatever, it is what it is. Hannah is now freed. So they're not killing her today. But with Sarah, they chain her up. I don't know why they chained her up when they're going to hang her on a tree. But anyways, they chain her up, and it's actually Solomon that does the chaining up. And in this moment, she has this few more minutes with him and says, I'm going to get you. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to make sure that everyone knows who you are. I will never leave you. I love this. Like, I don't think I wrote all of this down. Plus, I'm not even up with my notes anymore. I'm just going off memory. And she's like, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did. So that's what happens. And then she's hung. And again, gnarly as hell is the hanging. It's bad. But again, like this is what happens. And yeah, she's hanging and she's obviously struggling, but eventually she does die. And I think the part that's really gnarly about this after that is like, I don't know how closely you focused on it, but her eyes, which is again, that's what happens. But so yeah, it was gnarly. So I'm gonna finish up here with 6066 before we go back to 94, just so we can bow this. So the friends decide, that they just leave her there for the longest time. But then I think they do bury her under the tree eventually. But then her friends say, we're not going to leave her here. We're going to dig her back up. We're going to bury her somewhere else, which is where we'll find her later. They're going to dig her up there. And we get an answer for the pink moss. Hannah had this crown that had like this pink, I don't want to call it moss at this point, but like pink flowers on it. And she puts it on Sarah's head. And that is the explanation for the pink moss. It's like it's just kind of been festering. It grows, it spreads. And that is the explanation for the pink moss, which is interesting. But yeah, that's explains all of that. So we're done with 66 and we're heading into 94 part 2.
Yeah.
So we see Dina. Her nose was again bleeding and she's like, what the hell? What's this? Then we hear a cop car in the distance and she's still in the moment of 1666 because she definitely said good with an accent and she's like, good. And so Nick sees Josh and he's like, what are you doing here? What are you up to? And Josh is like, nothing. Just here. No, nothing going on here. You can leave now. And he's like, where's your sister? And he's like, what sister? I don't know what you're talking about. And then Dina comes out and she's like, Josh, run. And Nick is like, I don't know if he actually shoots at them, but he definitely pulls his gun out. I can't remember if he actually shoots at them. And he's running deeper into the woods. And Josh is like, what the hell? Like, why are we running away from Nick? And she's like, it's him. It's all of them. She explains to him that it's the vision, what she saw, with everything. She's like, it's not Sarah. It's like, it started with Solomon, and then Solomon's, son. It's always the firstborn kid that takes this over. So Nick, obviously being the firstborn kid, he took this over, and she's like, it isn't good. It's him doing it. So while she's kind of explaining this to him, this is really hilarious. Like, I don't understand why people do this, but Nick is like, your sister's crazy. Like, don't listen to her. Like, just she's cuckoo, anything she's telling you is a lie. Like, what do you know what she could be telling him? But anyways, so yeah, while he's like looking through the woods trying to find them, and he does find where they were hiding, but they're gone, they steal his car, which is a felony. You can't do that. But anyways, he steals their car. They steal his car, and they go back to Ziggy, and they have to tell her the news that it's Nick. It's been Nick the entire time, which is definitely a blow because obviously they had some sort of connection. And yeah, and she's like, well, we have to stop him. Like, we have to stop this. It has to end tonight. We don't have a lot of help, obviously, right? And this is where they tie in the black guy that Mikel's like, this was weird. But they tie him in.
Yeah, I felt like it was bottom like a little weird, but I understand it's connected to the story. He's connected to the story because he was in 94,
he was in 94,
first part, and then he just came back to the part 2 of it. So yeah, just like the way how they just like reintroduced him in part 2, and then the way how they meet him down the road, but later on it's kind of like stereotypical way, so, but it is what it is.
And he lives like on Fear Street too. Did you notice that? He lives on Fear Street. But so it was, I thought it was funny. But yeah, so they rope him in. They're gonna go to the mall. They're gonna trap him there. So in case you are not following, Union then became the camp. The camp then became Shadyside Mall. Just in case you're not following, you're gonna kind of see everything connect in this movie. But just in case you're not following, that's what's happening here. So yeah, they go to the mall and they're like, okay, we're gonna trap him here. We're gonna get him here and whatever, right? And I think I didn't miss this, but just so you remember, Judy Blume book club. That was between Ziggy and Nick before, but yeah, I forgot to mention that because I thought that was funny. So yeah, anyway, they're gonna trap him in there or try to get basically the killers to kill him. And now they're after Dina. So now this is what they're gonna be doing. So now we have to use Dina's blood. So what they do, again, I'm just gonna go through this quickly because there's a lot happening here. Dina's blood is basically mixed into this solution that they're going to do. They're going to be spraying this out of water guns, old school water guns that I definitely had as a kid that I no longer have because they broke. But it definitely was a moment. You're like, it's like the super soaker, which really didn't really super soak anything. But yeah, they have like the thing you had to pump it and oh yeah. Anyway, this is what they're doing. So here, we're just gonna fast forward now. What they're gonna basically do is trap the killers once they come into the different storefronts, and they're gonna bring like the gates down, and they're gonna trap them in there. And then once Nick shows up,
so what did they try to trap the monsters with? Like, I see like a lot of these like toy guns. Is it like their blood, or is it like
it was the blood? It was Dina's blood in there.
Dina's blood. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Dina's blood, and
it was glowing in the dark.
Yeah, they did some glow dark thing. I don't know why, but yeah, it has Dina's blood in it. So that's what they were going to be doing. And they were only going to have to use it like if they had to. But yeah, this is what they were planning to do. So basically, yeah, the demons come out because they're going to try to kill Dina. And we see Ruby, of course. First, I can't remember if Dina, no, not Dina, sorry, if it was Ruby and then Humpty Dumpty Killer were first. But yeah, we're seeing all of them at this point. And it's like I said, we're going to go through this quick. We had Humpty Dumpty Killer, Ruby without Nightwing's out. The guy with the mask thing that I can't remember what it's called. You had Milkman. You had everybody. Skullface was there too. You had everybody except for Pastor Miller, which I have thoughts and feelings on that. Why wasn't Pastor Miller involved in this? Like, I just want to say he's the original. He's the OG killer. Why wasn't he there ever? Like, why do we never see him again? That's what I know.
Maybe he's the mask guy. You ever thought of that?
No, he's not though. He's not the mask guy. We know who he is. The mask guy is related to, I think, what's it? Miller. He's related to somebody. It might have been Pastor Miller, like bloodline. I'm not sure. But he's like the grandson of somebody. I can't remember exactly who that is. Watch the movie if you all want to know, but they do mention who he is. He's not Pastor Miller. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. Everyone's there anyways. And they trap them in the storefronts with a little bit of difficulty because one of the storefronts, if we remember from the first movie, I didn't mention this, but in the first movie, Heather tries to close the storefront wasn't closing properly. And she kind of just left it. She's like, whatever. So she just left it. So this is the same storefront that they trapped Nightwing in. And it's not going down. And Ziggy is the one that has to close it. And it's not going down. And she's like, oh shit. So she has to like literally take her foot and like push it down. And he's coming. He's ready to play. And she eventually is able to get it down right before he's about to like hit her with the axe. And he's trapped as well. So Nick comes and Ziggy is the one that's there to greet him. And you saw how he like stopped in his tracks when he saw her. Like, I don't know if Nick Good is capable of loving anybody, but I think he did love Ziggy. I think he definitely like, I don't know if love is as far as you can go, but he definitely like cares for her and like,
some weird way that he does care for her.
Yeah.
He wouldn't revive her or
exactly.
Let her go.
But then he's definitely willing to use her as a human shield. So
yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. It seems that for me that romance didn't really make any. Somewhat didn't make any sense. It did make sense.
You think so? And yes, it made sense because he was crushing on her and she was crushing on him. The only reason it didn't go anywhere is because, again, PTSD is a killer, and she probably trapped herself away from society and definitely trapped herself away from him because she associates him to what happened, and he's also the person who revived her, where she kind of wishes he just let her die, just left her for dead, just don't revive me back. So she, I think, really did seclude herself away from him as well. So that's why the relationship didn't flourish because of that. So I'm not saying that the romance didn't make sense. I understand why it didn't go anywhere as well. That's my thoughts on it.
Just at times it didn't make sense, and then this was and I do agree. Like, he does care for her in some type of weird way, but yeah.
So anyway, he's like Ziggy. Like, he's shocked to see her here, and she's like, "Tag, you're it," and she carries him, which is very, again, significant to 78, where she wanted to carry Sheila, and said now she carries him. So yeah, that is what happens. And that, obviously, that blood has Dina's blood in it. So they release the killers and they're going to go after him. But just not enough time. She's not able to get away in enough time because, like I just said, uses her as a human shield and grabs her and says, keep them away from me or they're going to kill her too. And I'm not sure how she got freed. I don't remember what happened, but anyways, she somehow gets freed from him and whatever, and he runs off to wherever. We will find out where he runs off to. He runs off, and it basically does the killers. So basically, they go and they get themselves trapped in one of the things, and she throws her, she's luckily wearing like a jacket, and there's a jacket, it has her blood on it, they'll say with that, and they're literally like a moth to the flame. Just you see it just like no, not yet.
Yeah.
That happens in a minute. They're literally moth to the flame to her like sweater. You see them like picking it up and like smelling it and being like, what the heck? It's so weird watching them like move. But yeah, they kind of said while they're trapped in there, I'm not sure Dina, I guess Dina was hiding off because obviously her blood. But yeah, while they're in there, Josh is like, hey guys, Sam's loose, because Sam was also hiding behind with Dina. Sam is loose. Oh, I know where Dina was. Sorry. Dina was going to be going after Nick. So Dina must have been around.
Yeah.
Dina goes after Nick. We'll go to Dina in a minute. But that's what happened. And Sam goes after everybody. So they come up with an idea that they're basically going to carry everybody else. Not really carry. They're not going to carry everybody else. But they have like their guns with the blood. And they're going to basically spray each other. They're going to spray them with the blood. And have at it. So that's literally what happens. They spray them. They leave them to it. And they're literally attacking each other. And killing each other. And there's just like this sopping mess in like the middle of the thing, because that's literally what they do. So like, okay, we bought ourselves some time. That's basically like they're gonna regenerate or whatever. But now we're just gonna go to Dina. Dina is going after Nick, and we see this grate and on the floor that she has visions is literally the area where Sarah freed herself, which is into the church. This is also the same area where Cindy was as well. And she goes down there and she's gonna find Nick. And he's like she's calling after him now. And the tables have turned. And he's like, you know, this has been a part of my family for centuries and whatever, and he's just rambling. Meanwhile, as we said, Sam is after her as well, so Sam was also in the mix, and she doesn't know that at first. But again, we're just gonna go through this quick because again, so much is happening here. But yeah, she finds him. Sam also finds her at some point, but anyways, she finds him, and guess he must have touched something, the heart, I don't know, but he touched something. He's seeing all of these visions, and he's seeing Sarah. He's like having a freak out, and basically it allows her enough time to stab him in the eye. And that is the end of that. He's dead. Sam's gone back to normal. Because she did not. The monsters are gone.
Yes.
And the area where they had like the witch's mark and everything, it's all going away. The names on the wall gone. The mark gone. Everything is just gone. And it's like nothing happened. And Josh is like, she fucking did it. Like, it's great. And the part here that is interesting, because you try to understand, how is he getting here? Because this section is connected to his house. So they go into this other part, go into the house, and we see like the tree and everything, like the family tree and all of this. And they walk outside, and across the street, I think his brother lives across the street from him. So they go outside, they see his brother lives across the street. He's pulling out into his car, and then a truck hits the car. So the part that's important here that I don't think we really talked about is Sunnyvale never seemed to have any problems. They have like this lucky streak and all that because of the curse. But now that the curse is now lifted on Shadyside, now they're even. So, yeah, that's basically that part of it. Of course, his brother claimed that he knew nothing about Nick Good and what he was doing. That's bullshit. No one believes that. And it's kind of now justice for everybody with what happened with Nick. And not only that, but for Seraph here as well. And thinking the movie's done now, right? They think the movie's over, it's done, and what more can happen here? And I don't know, Mikel, did you watch all of this? Like, did you watch the credits?
I did watch the credits.
You didn't watch the credits. Okay, so this is going to be new for you. You're watching the credits. I can understand why you would stop watching because the credits are rolling.
Yeah.
Over, right?
Yeah. Netflix gave me the option to
watch something, right? So you escaped. You shouldn't have done that because there's a reason why I said you have to watch at the very, very, very end. You didn't do it, but it's okay. It's fine. I'm going to tell you. So we're seeing the stuff and the credits rolling and whatever. And we're kind of seeing like the camera go further away from like Dina and Sam. And we're seeing it kind of going to Shadyside Mall. And it's like going into Shadyside Mall, it's going into the witches section. Well, that's now gone now, but it's going in there. You're seeing like taped off police tape, whatever, and you're seeing this. And what I didn't mention, I did on purpose, is the book that was used, obviously, for now centuries, was left in there. They didn't take the book. I don't understand why Dina didn't take the book, because Dina is the only one that knows about the book. It's only Dina that knows about the book. Or at least what the book can do. She's not necessarily the only one who knows, but she's the only one that knows what the book is capable of. It's the thing that did it. The book is left there. And then all you see is a hand grab the book. And the book is now gone into whoever took this book. We don't know who it was. We don't know who the hands are.
Yeah.
And that's how the movie ends. So
you think that there'll be a fourth movie or not? That's
I think there's gonna, I don't know, because again, we talked in the beginning about like the rumors about more movies coming, and potentially that being origin stories for those people that we didn't really see the origins fully, like Ruby and the other ones prior to her. So I am curious to see if that's the route they're gonna take, or if they're gonna go the route of who took the damn book. So I don't know. And I don't know if there are going to be more movies. I'm not sure, but these movies did really, really well when they first came out. So who knows? Who knows? But that's the end of the trilogy, the Fear Street trilogy. As mentioned, we're just going to kind of do a little history on the witch trials, because I think it's really important to understand, like, this was real. And in particular, we're going to talk the Salem witch trials. Not going to talk. There are definitely more witch trials. Maybe we can talk about them on a later episode. But Salem witch trials were one of the more gnarly ones in U.S. history. So we're going to talk about that one. So the Salem witch trials, which went from June 1692 to 1693, is a series of investigations and persecutions that caused 19 convicted quote-unquote witches to be hanged and many other suspects to be imprisoned in Salem Village in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which is now called Danvers, Massachusetts. So the events in Salem in 1692 were one chapter in a long story of witch hunts that began in Europe between 1300 and 1330. So this dated back a long time, and ended in the late 18th century with the last known execution for witchcraft taking place in Switzerland in 1782. The Salem trials occurred late in the sequence after the abatement of the European witch hunt fervor, which peaked from the 1580s and 90s to the 1630s and 40s. Some 3/4 of those European witch hunts took place in Western Germany, the Low Countries, France, Northern Italy, and Switzerland. The number of trials and executions varied according to time and place, but it is generally believed that some 110,000 people in total were tried for witchcraft, and between 40,000 to 60,000 of them were executed. Nuts. The hunts were efforts to identify witches rather than pursuits of individuals who were already thought to be witches. Witches were considered to be followers of Satan who had traded their souls for his assistance, which we saw in the movie. It was believed that they employed demons to accomplish magical deeds, that they changed from human to animal form or from one human form to another, that animals acted as their familiar spirits of familiars, and that they rode through the air at night to secret meetings and orgies. Y'all, orgies. There is little doubt that some individuals did worship the devil and attempt to practice sorcery with harmful intent. However, no one ever embodied the concept of a witch as previously described. The process of identifying witches began with suspicions or rumors. Accusations followed, often escalating to convictions and then executions. The Salem witch trials and executions came about as the result of a combination of church politics, family feuds, and hysterical children. That is not an exaggeration, all of which unfolded in a vacuum of political authority. There were two Salems in the late 17th century, a bustling commerce-oriented port community on Massachusetts Bay known as Salem Town, which would evolve into modern Salem today, and roughly 10 miles, 16 kilometers for us Canadians, inland from it, a smaller, poorer farming community of some 500 persons known as Salem Village. The village itself had a noticeable social divide that was exacerbated by a rivalry between its two leading families, the well-heeled Porters, who had strong connections with Salem Town's wealthy merchants, and the Putnams. Who sought greater autonomy for the village and were the standard bearers for the less prosperous farm families. Squabbles over property were commonplace, and litigation was rampant as well. In 1689, through the influence of the Putnams, Samuel Paris, a merchant from Boston by way of Barbados, became the pastor of the village's Congregational Church. Paris, spelled P-A-R-R-I-S, think if you're curious to learn more about him, whose largely theoretical studies at Harvard College, now Harvard University, had been interrupted before he could graduate, was in the process of changing careers from business to ministry. He brought to Salem Village his wife, their 3 children, a niece, and 2 slaves who were originally from Barbados, John Indian, a man, and Tituba. Yeah, that's right, Tituba, who was a woman. The uncertainty regarding the relationship between the slaves and their ethnic origins, there is uncertainty between them. There's not a lot known about either of them, but some scholars believe that they were of African heritage, while others think they may have also been of Caribbean, Native American heritage, so we just don't really know. Paris had negotiated his contract with the congregation, but relatively early in his tenure, he sought greater compensation, including ownership of the parsonage, which did not sit well with many members of the congregation. Paris's Orthodox Puritan theology and preaching also divided the congregation, a split that became visible when he routinely insisted that non-members of the congregation leave before communion was celebrated, which is something we don't have, like in the Catholic Church. We won't tell you need to leave before communion happens, but obviously you can't partake in it. Anyways, in the process, Salem divided into pro and anti-Paris factions, probably stimulated by voodoo tales told to them by Tituba. Paris's daughter Betty, who was 9, and his niece Abigail Williams, who was 11, and their friend Anne Putnam Jr., about 12 years old, began indulging in fortune-telling. In January of 1692, Betty's and Abigail's increasingly strange behavior, described by at least one historian as juvenile delinquency, came to include fits. They would scream, they made odd sounds, threw things, contorted their bodies, and complained of biting and pinching sensations. Looking back with the perspective provided by modern science, some scholars have speculated that the strange behavior may have resulted some combination of either asthma, Lyme disease, potentially epilepsy, potential child abuse, because again, times delusional psychosis or convulsive erotism. The last was a disease caused by eating bread or cereal made of rye that has been infected with the fungus ergot, which can elicit vomiting, choking, fits, hallucinations, and the sense of something crawling on one's skin. Definitely sounds like it could be that. The hallucinogen LSD is actually derivative of ergot. So interesting. Given the subsequent spread of the strange behavior to other girls and young women in the community and the timing of its display, however, those physiological and psychological explanations are not very convincing. The litany of odd behavior also mirrored that of the children of a Boston family who in 1688 were believed to have been bewitched, a description of which has been provided by Congressional Minister Cotton Mather in his book this is a long title, bear with me, Memorable Providences Relating to Witchcraft and Possessions, which he wrote in 1689. And which may have been known by the girls in Salem Village, because Cotton Mather is a very prominent figure. In February, unable to account for their behavior medically, the local doctor, William Griggs, put the blame on the supernatural. At the suggestion of a neighbor, a witch cake, quote unquote, which was made with this is really gross, guys, the urine of the victims was baked by Tituba to try to ferret out the supernatural perpetrator of the girl's illness. Although it provided no answers, its baking outraged Paris, who was their father and uncle, who saw it as a blasphemous act, which I kind of agree, it's pretty gross. Pressured by Paris to identify their tormentor, Betty and Abigail claimed to have been bewitched by Tituba and two other marginalized members of the community, neither of whom attended church regularly. This was Sarah Good, who was a beggar, and Sarah Osborne, she was an elderly bedridden woman who scorned for her romantic involvement with an indentured servant. So if you also notice too, there are a lot of Sarahs. Sarah's a very common name among women who were claimed to be witches. So on March 1st, two magistrates from Salem town, John Hawthorne and Jonathan Corwin, went to the village to conduct a public inquiry. Both Good and Osborne protested their own innocence. Obviously, though, Good accused Osborne. This is what would happen. One would blame another while the other would potentially not blame her or try to claim innocence. So this is what they would do, because they tortured them. They would torture them to do false confessions, and this is what would happen. So initially, Tituba also claimed to be blameless, but after being repeatedly badgered and undoubtedly fearful owing to her vulnerable status as a slave, she told the magistrates what they apparently wanted to hear, that she had been visited by the devil and made a deal with him. In 3 days of vivid testimony, she described encounters with Satan's animal, familiars with a tall, dark man from Boston who had called upon her to sign the devil's book, in which she saw the names of Good and Osborne along with those of 7 others that she could not read. The magistrates then had not only a confession, but also what they accepted as evidence of the presence of more witches in the community, and hysteria mounted. Other girls and young women began experiencing fits, among them Anne Putnam Jr., her mother, her cousin, Mary Walcott, and the Putnam's servant, Mercy Lewis. Significantly, those that they began identifying as other witches were no longer just outsiders and outcasts, but rather upstanding members of community, beginning with Rebecca Nurse, who was a mature woman of some prominence. As the weeks passed, many of the accused proved to be enemies of the Putnams, and the Putnam family members and in-laws would end up being accused of being witches. So this is why like the Putnam, like why I keep saying Putnam with ugh, because they are the cause for all of this. 2 bored girls. Anyway, so on May 27th, 1692, after weeks of informal hearings accompanied by imprisonments, Sir William Pitt, the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony, interceded and ordered the convening of an official count of oyer, which was to hear, and terminer, to decide, in Salem town, presided over by William Strongton, the colony's lieutenant governor. The court consisted of 7 judges. The accused were forced to defend themselves without aid of counsel. Most damning for them was the admission of spectral evidence, that is, claims by the victims that they had seen and been attacked, whether pinched, bitten, contorted by specters of the accused, whose forms Satan allegedly had assumed to work his evil. Even as the accused testified on the witness stand, the girls and young women who had accused them withered, whimpered, and babbled in the gallery, seemingly providing evidence of the specter's demonic presence. Those who confessed and named other witches were spared the court's vengeance, owing to the Puritan belief that they would receive their punishment from God. Those who insisted upon their innocence met harsher fates, becoming martyrs to their own sense of justice. Many in the community who viewed the unfolding events as travesties remained mute, afraid that they would be punished for raising objection to the proceedings by being accused of witchcraft themselves. On June 2nd of 1692, Bridget Bishop, who had been accused and found innocent of witchery some 12 years earlier, was the first of the defendants to be convicted. On June 10th, she was hanged on what became known as Gallows Hill in Salem Village. On July 19th, 5 more convicted persons were hanged, including Nurse and Good. The latter of whom responded to her conviction by saying that she was no more a witch than the judge was a wizard. Judge Burroughs, who had served as a minister in Salem Village from 1680 to 1683, was summoned from his new home in Maine and accused of being the witch's ringleader. He too was convicted, along with 4 others, was hanged on August 19th. So he wasn't even there. As he stood on the gallows, he recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly, something they suspected witches could not do, which raised doubts about his guilt for some in attendance, though their protests were refuted, most notably by Cotton Mather, who was present there. On September 22nd, 8 more convicted persons were hanged, including Martha Corey, whose husband Giles, upon being accused of witchcraft and refusing to enter a plea, had been subjected to peine forte et dure, which was strong and hard punishment, and pressed beneath heavy stones for 2 days until he died. That is horrific. As the trials progressed, accusations spread to individuals from other communities, among them Beverly, Malden, Gloucester, Andover, Lynn, Marblehead, Charleston, and Boston. On October 3rd, Cotton Mather's father, Increase Mather, yes, his name was Increase, an influential minister and the president of Harvard, condemned the use of spectral evidence and instead favored direct accusations. On October 29th, as the accusations of witchcraft extended to include his own wife, Governor Phipps once again stepped in, ordering a halt to the proceedings of the Court of Ire and Terminer in their place. So basically, a prominent person's wife is being accused of witchcraft, and then they try to stop everything. Ridiculous. Anyways, in their place, he established a superior court of judicature, which was instructed not to admit spectral evidence. Trials resumed in January and February, but of the 56 persons indicted, only 3 were convicted. And they, along with everyone held in custody, had been pardoned by Phipps by May 1693 as the trials came to an end. 19 people had been hanged, and another 5, not counting Giles Corey because he died differently, had died in custody. In the years to come, there would be individual and institutional acts of repentance by many of those involved in the trials. In January 1697, the General Court of Massachusetts declared a day of fasting and contemplation for the tragedy that had resulted from the trials. That month, Samuel Sewell, one of the judges, publicly acknowledged his own error and guilt in the proceedings. In 1702, the General Court declared that the trials had been unlawful. In 1706, Anne Putnam Jr. apologized for her role as an accuser. 22 of the 33 individuals had been convicted or exonerated in 1711. Difference does it make now? By the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which also paid some £600 to the families of the victims. In 1957, so we've just shot up to the 20th century, the state of Massachusetts formally apologized for the trials. It was not until 2001 that the last 11 of the convicted were exonerated. The abuses of the Salem witch trials would contribute to changes in U.S. court procedures, playing a role in the advent of the guarantee of the right to legal representation, the right to cross-examine one's accuser, and the presumption of innocence rather than of guilt. The Salem trials and the witch hunt as metaphors for the persecution of minority groups remained powerful symbols in the 20th and 21st centuries, owing in no small measure to playwright Arthur Miller's use in The Crucible in 1953 movie of the offense, movie or book, I'm not sure, but 1953, of the offense individuals from the 1692 as stand-ins for the anti-communist hearing led by Senator Joseph McCarthy during the Red Scare of the 1950s. So that's basically a quick thing of the trials, the Salem witch trials. There's still so much out there that you can learn. You know, you can learn more about like Cotton Mathers and his role and everything, because he's such a prominent role in all of this, and more about the Putnams and everything. But yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of look at. It's just like, I don't understand how humans did this to other humans. As much as like Fear Street as a movie and it's entertainment, it opens up your mind like this happened. And they didn't mention one man here, but there were more men, not as many as women, but there were men that were, you know, convicted and killed. There were animals. They were killing cats and other animals that they saw as familiars as well. Like, it didn't just end with the women, but it was also animals were being killed because, oh, they're the devil's familiars and whatever. So there's so much with this, but yeah, that's basically it for me.
So this ends episode 54 of the Next Tape Podcast. The Next Tape Podcast is available now on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called solo.to/Next Tape Podcast. Tanyka, where else are we at?
We are on Facebook and Instagram at Next Take Podcast, and Twitter and TikTok at Next Take Pod.
You can contact us on email at mikeltanyka@gmail.com. So we just talked about the Fear Street trilogy. Plus, towards the end, Tanyka talked about the witches' trial.
The Salem witch trials.
Salem trials. So yeah. That's all I had to say about that. Do you have anything else left, Tanyka?
The only thing I'm going to say is the next movie that we're going to be doing, which is going to be the Scream movies. We're probably with this going to only really truly recap the first movie, but we'll kind of very quickly go over the next 2, 3, and 4 as well, just to kind of say this is what happened in those movies, because they're going to be very similar to the first. So that's what we're going to be doing. If you want to watch all 4 movies, you can.
Mhm.
I'm sure most of them are now available on Netflix. Again, we're recording this early, but they're probably all available on Netflix or Paramount or Prime or whatever,
Yep.
if you want to watch all 4.
Okay. All right. So stay tuned for that. All right. I'm Mikel, and
And I'm Tanyka.
we're out until next week. Peace, guys.
Bye.